Chapter 585. You are crazy. Sam Montier glared at Brother Jew as he walked closer. You don't have to call my name again and again, Fong Bujue replied impatiently. I'm not deaf. When Sam Montier heard that, he really stopped yelling. He waved his arm, and a black energy slash flew toward Brother Jew. Ring, ring, ring. A series of sounds announced that the crystal on the ground had been easily torn apart by the slash. Fong Bujue had already gotten into the rhythm of the battle. With his soul's eye in absolute speed, it was not hard for him to dodge this attack. But what he needed to do was not just dodge. Chi, chi, chi. Golden light flashed, and a series of attacks appeared. When Sam Montier made his move, Death Poker also made his move. Earlier, when Fong Bujue had his hands in his pockets, he had secretly taken out his sorcery weapon from his pocket, so he appeared to be at ease. But the target of the Death Poker was not Sam Montier, but, you're just playing tricks. Punisher looked at the golden light flying towards his face and sneered. Humans are humans. What can an attack of this level do to me? He raised his hand and easily deflected the Death Poker. Your aim is quite accurate. You even know to aim for my eyes. Bang! Jeppo broke through the air and shot forward. Fong Bujue's attack was not over yet. Just as Punisher blocked the Death Poker, he was already in front of him. He reached out his arms and aimed for Punisher's ribs. Do you have a death wish? Punisher looked at Brother Jew with condescension. From his perspective, this traveler from another world was either an idiot or a madman. With the power of a human, he wanted to fight him barehanded. That was suicidal. But when Brother Jew's hands touched Punisher's body, something unexpected happened. In the next second, Xingshi felt the scenery in front of him change. In a flash, he was right next to Sam Montier. While he was still in shock, Sam Montier's voice rang out in his ears. Go to hell. Punisher. The Punisher was shocked, but he immediately reacted instinctively. He took a step forward and shot into the sky like a cannonball. The Punisher was still wary of Sam Montier's strength. To be honest, he did not have the confidence to take a direct hit, so his first reaction was to dodge. However, the Punisher, who was in midair, felt that something was amiss. Oh no! When he calmed down and looked at the bottom of the pit again, he realized that he had fallen into a trap. At this time, Fong Bujue had already arrived beside Hong Hu. He fed him an SCP-500 and a bottle of life points recovery potion. Phew, not a bad tactic. Hong Hu stood up and entered combat mode. He did not thank Brother Jew, but commented on the man's series of actions. It's okay. Actually, it's not a particularly clever tactic, Fong Bujue said as he raised his eyes to look at Punisher in the sky. Thankfully, the target is stupid enough. His words were clearly said to infuriate the torture master. In reality, Brother Jew's tactic was quite clever. When he was conversing with the torturer, he had already thought of every step of the plan. First, he prepared Death Poker in secret. Then, he used the Death Poker to ambush the Punisher's eyes and create an opening for him to close in on him. When he got close enough, he used Sandstorm Transit to drag him to Sam Montier's side. Lastly, before the Punisher could react, he ran toward his teammates and used Deceit Pocket Watch to imitate Sam Montier's voice. Based on Punisher's attitude toward Sam Montier and some minor reactions, Fong Bujue predicted that Punisher was weaker than Sam Montier. Therefore, he came up with this plan in a matter of seconds. Using Punisher's hesitation and shock after being dragged by the skill, Brother Jew used a voice-changing device to fool the man. No matter how fast Punisher reacted, it was a fact that he had been dragged several meters away by Fong Bujue. Even if it only took him 2 seconds to realize that he had been tricked, Fong Bujue had rushed toward Hong Hu 2 seconds before him. The worst-case scenario was that Brother Jew would not be able to put the potion into Hong Hu's mouth in time and would have to carry Hong Hu and run. But now, that was the best outcome. You cunning be *starred. Punisher cursed in midair. Then he lowered his head to look at Sam Montier and yelled, Sam Montier, isn't he your enemy? What are you waiting for? Kill him now. Don't give me orders. Sam Montier roared at the sky and then turned to look at Brother Jew. Even if you don't tell me that, I will tear him into pieces. Then, his demon hoof slowly stepped forward. Bang, bang. The ferocious demon spread its wings and clawed at the two players with a murderous look on its face. Today, the Master of Time will not come to save you, he said as he walked. I told you, I will make you pay. Fong Bujue stared at the approaching Samontier and said in a ventriloquist voice, I have an idea. What is it? Honghu lowered his voice to reply. Run, Fong Bujue said. Good idea. Honghu replied immediately. It was indeed a good idea, because it did not conflict with the main quest. Okay, I will create an opening. You run when the time is right, Fong Bujue said. Understood, Honghu replied. After the discussion with his teammates, Brother Ju started to move. He took out something from his pocket, raised his arm, and threw it forward. He even shouted, I've decided on you, the god of haiku. What kind of name is that? Honghu could not help but mock. However, his mockery would not affect the development of the plan. The Pope ball flew in the air and opened with a ping sound. Immediately after, a white light shot out from it. In 2 seconds, the large pool of white light took shape and materialized into a gigantic mushroom man. Cha! Cha! The mushroom man screamed as soon as it appeared. Facing Samontier, who was several meters away, it was not afraid at all. It assumed a karate stance and prepared to attack. The god of haiku used Ninth Snow Dance. Fong Bujue waved his arm and gave the order to attack. Hey, where did you learn the name of this skill? Honghu could not help but roar again. On the other side, before Brother Ju finished, the mushroom man had already charged forward. It used a sprint to get close to Samontier. Then it jumped up and landed on top of Samontier. Cha! The mushroom man landed on Samontier's head with one hand, keeping himself upside down. Then he used his other hand to rub the mushroom cap on his head, sprinkling a fine powder that looked like spores. Samontier, one of the most powerful bosses in the main universe, was poisoned. How dare you? The blood vessels on Samontier's forehead burst. Purple liquid gushed out and splattered all over his face. In his fury, the energy in his body leaked out like a broken dam, spreading in all directions. Cha! The mushroom man screamed in pain and was reduced to dust by the black stream. Seeing this, Fong Bujue knew that the time had come. Instantly, he barked at Ambitionist. Now is the time. Before he finished, he had already started to run. Honghu was not going to be polite. He turned around and ran. The two of them were like arrows released from a bow. In the blink of an eye, they were dozens of meters away. Punisher, who was in the air, wanted to stop them, but he was blocked by Samontier's energy and was unable to catch up. Samontier howled like a madman for about 10 seconds before he pulled back his mana. Fong Bujue, where are you? I will kill you. Idiot. He's already escaped. Punisher rushed in the direction that the two players had escaped. Without turning back, he yelled, Quick, follow me. I can detect their... At that moment, a sharp claw pierced through Punisher's back and gripped his heart. You. Punisher's eyes widened, and disbelief was written all over his face. Who are you calling an idiot? Idiot. Samontier's chilling voice echoed in his ears. WH1. Black blood leaked out from Punisher's mouth. Of course, it's not because you call me an idiot. Ha ha ha. Samontier laughed coldly. Samontier was like a completely different person from before. His madness, recklessness, and violence were all an illusion. His eyes had never been blinded by hatred and anger. He was born into an evil race, but he managed to climb up the ranks step by step. His intelligence and shrewdness were undeniable. Those who underestimated that would have to pay the price. Billy asked me to say hello. The latter half of Samontier's sentence was like a bucket of cold water poured over Punisher's head. It chilled him to the bone. I am indeed here to visit you. After all, you don't have much time left. That be asterisk starred. Punisher gritted his teeth. Is he here to see me one last time? Ha! It's good that you understand. Samontier smiled. Everything on Devil's Maw Island is a trade. Don't blame me. I merely made a trade with him. No, that's not right. Then why did he come to warn me? Punisher asked again. Because he knows very well. Samontier continued, how to get a smart guy like you to take the bait. Sam Montier paused for 2 seconds before he continued in a mocking tone. Billy only gave you a hint, and you were already restless. A silkworm queen's carcass caused your imagination to run wild. So, after he left, you couldn't wait to come to the maze realm to investigate. Then, you discovered the culprit behind all this, the travelers from the other dimension. How did you know? Punisher struggled to finish the sentence. Huh, isn't it obvious? Sam Montier replied darkly. Do you think the seal on the cage has just been loosened? That's impossible. Punisher's expression changed. Billy didn't know. He is very powerful, Sam Montier said. Even though I was shocked, the reality is that he is now even more powerful than I am. He paused. Of course, that's not the main point. Anyway, when Billy made the trade with me, I was already free. My power was no longer restricted by the cage. Since then, I have been able to investigate everything on the island. And the things that you have done, I have seen them all with my own eyes. Sam Montier chuckled coldly and continued. No matter how much you like to say whatever, in essence, you are still a scoundrel who plans everything carefully. Punisher, you have never had the courage to challenge the strong. Even when facing the weak, you like to use sneak attacks or sneak attacks. You're like all the sadistic people in this world. Everything that you show and do is just to cover up the inferiority and weakness in your heart. Compared to you, even the most despicable maggots are incomparably noble. You really make me want to vomit. At this point, Sam Montier's claws tightened. Speaking of which, it is not easy to make someone like you reveal your weakness. He stretched his neck and said, I've been acting very hard, but you haven't let your guard down at all. Humph. If it weren't for the fact that you have the key to seal me back into the cage, I would have done it already. There's no need for me to wait for such an opportunity. At this moment, Punisher was unable to open his mouth to reply. His eyes were filled with despair and regret, and Billy's words kept flashing before his eyes. Do not believe what you see on the surface so easily. Thankfully, Sam Montier continued. Fong Bujua's performance did not disappoint me. He is such an annoying person, isn't he? With his cooperation, my performance also seems more natural. At this point, his tone changed. But other than that, in terms of power, the current Fong Bujua is already a very powerful character. You should have noticed that when you ambushed him from above, right? He is not on the same level as the other two travelers from another world. I have to admit, your decision to use me to kill him was a very correct one. He turned around to glare at Punisher. If you had killed that guy called Hong Hu and left Fong Bujua alone, you would have been in danger. He lowered his voice. Without a witness, the kid would not have needed to hide his power anymore. I'm afraid you would have died in his hands. Do not underestimate that person who is better at making people hate him than you are. After a few minutes, the torturer's life had come to an end. Sam Montier's words made it clear to him that he was dying. In the end, Xingshi mustered all his strength and muttered, The Master of Time won't let you go. Sam Montier laughed condescendingly. That does sound like the last words of someone like you. The claws tightened and the heart exploded. Black blood splattered everywhere. Sam Montier tossed Punisher's body to the ground like a piece of trash. Then he raised his leg and stomped on the man's head, then his chest, stomach, and limbs. When there was only a puddle of meat on the ground, Sam Montier found what he was looking for. He bent down and used his sharp claws to pick up the torturer's spine. He then carefully pulled out a belt of light that emitted a purple glow from within. There are already so many prisoners on the island. Sam Montier picked up the purple band of light, which was similar to the keys of the island manager. If I let all of you out, it will be very interesting, won't it? Sam Montier put the band of light away and raised his head to look in the direction that the two players had escaped. So that's how it is. The kid has already made a deal with Fu Ling. He scoffed. Humph. He has already prepared an escape route, and he is invincible from the beginning. He shook his head. Fine, I'll let you go this time. After all, before the Master of Time discovers the situation here, I still have many things to do. After muttering a few words, he unfolded the giant wings behind him, gathered the demon chi in his chest, and flew into the sky. At the same time, on the other side of the main universe, inside the first magistrate's office in Chronograph City. 3 more steps, and you'll be a general. The man who spoke had a rock-like voice, and he looked about the same. He was about 3 meters tall, and his body was made from different color marble. He looked like a muscular human being. The strange thing was that he had hair. Of course, his hair was not moss or anything like that. Instead, it was something like battlements. They grew around the top of his head like a crown. This stone man was the first magistrate under the Master of Time, Tion Shur. Hey, don't rush me. Did I rush you? The person who spoke to him was a very ordinary-looking old man. He was wearing the white robe of a wizard from Middle-earth, and he had the hairstyle of an old shaman. He was the god of wisdom, Wisten. Heavenstone and Wisten would often get together to play chess, a game similar to chess, but the chess pieces were all strange things that only existed in the main universe. Ironically, the guy known as the god of wisdom always lost more than he won. An hour ago, we had the same conversation. Do you still remember? Tion Shur asked again. Stop talking nonsense. Do you think I have Alzheimer's? Wisten roared and continued to scratch his head at the chessboard. Sigh. Tion Shur held his chin and turned his head to the side. If you don't mind, can I leave for a while? Sure. Wisten replied impatiently. Tion Shur shrugged and walked to the corner of the room. He picked up a kettle and poured himself a drink, gulping it down. Suddenly, he saw something from the corner of his eyes. In the next second, Tinshur's expression changed, and he spat out the thing in his mouth. Ah! He roared, scaring Wisten, who was beside the chessboard. What happened? What happened? Wisten looked around nervously. The leader of the demons is attacking. Something happened on Devil Chomp Island, Tion Shur said as he ran out the door. Wisten was stunned for a few seconds. Then he stood up and walked to where Tion Shur had been standing. There was a shelf on the wall, and there was an object that looked like a crystal ball on the shelf. The shape of the crystal ball was very strange. It looked like a white eyeball, and in the middle of the ball, there was a thin amber line. Chapter 586. The scenario has been completed. Calculating reward. Obtained EXP 150,000. Game coins 100000. Acquired equipment. Chuck Norris's razor. Missions completed. 99/99 completed special and hidden missions. 1. Unlocked world building. None time of terror points increase. 0. Highest terror points. 0%. Average terror points. 0%. Your terror rating is embodiment of valor. Extra reward obtained. Please choose later. Obtain skill points. 1, 414. Additional bonus skill points. EXP 14140. Game coins 100000. Inch scenario cleared reward. Puzzle card X3 side quest reward. Puzzle card X1 calculation complete. Please continue. After returning to the login lobby, Fong Bujue clicked on the touch screen to check the result. This was the first time he had cleared a nightmare mode team scenario, and from the result, the reward was quite good. There were 2 reasons for the high EXP reward. 1, it had taken them a long time to clear the scenario, and 2, it was because they had completed many side quests. The 9 main quests were: search for Devil's Maw Island and enter the Temple of Faith within 3 hours. Players who fail to do so will be killed. Reach the altar at the bottom of the Temple of Faith within 3 hours. Players who fail to do so will be killed. Use the altar at the Temple of Worship within 15 minutes to summon and defeat the God of Wandering, Walker. Pass through the corridor behind the altar within 1 hour to reach the Crystal Maze. Arrive at the Cage of Despair. Find a way to open the cage. Remove the seal on the Cage of Despair, survive, and escape from Devil's Maw Island. Even though there were some changes due to Billy's interference, overall, the scenario's death rate and difficulty were still increasing. Of the 2 side quests, describe 7 crimes to satisfy hunger rescind, and reach the Silkworm Mother's nest and rescue Uncle Worthless before he dies, or leaves the scenario due to other reasons. They had only completed one of them, which resulted in the lack of a direct reward. That was quite regrettable. I've gotten so many puzzle cards in one go. Feng Bujua looked at the screen and mumbled. The reason all the rewards are given to the puzzle cards is to allow the players to familiarize themselves with the new puzzle card trading house as soon as possible. At this point, he took out the electric razor from his inventory and held it before his eyes to study it. Other than the puzzle cards, the most valuable thing that I've gotten this time is this thing. Brother Jew carefully read the description of the item again, but he still did not understand what it was for. What kind of special effect is give you a cool appearance? Could it be that this is a prank with the label legendary? Beep beep. The communication request that popped up on the screen interrupted Brother Jew's train of thought. Feng Bujua looked at it. It was a communication request for multiple people. Hong Hu, Uncle Worthless, and Flying Horse were all on the channel. They had probably finished reading the scenario and wanted to communicate with each other. After 2 seconds of hesitation, Brother Jew accepted the request and entered the channel. Once the call connected, he heard Uncle Worthless' voice. I just finished a round of the killing game. When I saw the EXP I got, I knew you guys had cleared the scenario. My death was so unjust. That B** star was so powerful, but he ambushed me. Speaking of which, you guys have helped me take revenge, right? Flying Horse's voice continued. Hong Hu's voice replied, I'm sorry, but we retreated. After you died, other than the boss who ambushed you, Samon Tier soon appeared. He was the one who had a grudge with Brother Phone. Under those circumstances, it was unrealistic to fight the 2 monsters in a 2v2 situation, so we escaped through the small path at the bottom of the pit. He paused. Who would have thought that after running for a while, the mission Survive would suddenly be completed? Then, the mission Escape from Devil's Chomp Island appeared. Then how did you guys escape from the island? Uncle Worthless asked. The way to leave Devil's Maw Island. Feng Bujua said. There are 2 ways. He smiled. Of course, death does not count. That cannot be considered leaving. Then, what are the 2 ways? Brother Ma asked. The first way, to put it bluntly, is to use brute force, using magic, power, or physical means to leave. Feng Bujua answered. This method is naturally difficult for us to do, but among the prisoners on the island, there are quite a few who can do it. However, the prisoners on Devil's Chomp Island are all suppressed by a bunch of keys. Without the keys, even if they can move freely on the island, they will not be able to leave the island. Brother Jew paused for a few seconds before continuing. And the second method is a trade. As I said, many of the prisoners on the island have the ability to leave the island, but they are suppressed by the keys. However, even if they cannot leave, it does not mean that they cannot send others away. Oh, I get it now. Uncle Worthless understood. When we were at the Ghost Swamp, you already found out the method to leave the island from Fu Ling and made a trade with her. Humph. You already came up with this plan, but you did not even mention it to us. Hong Hu suddenly added coldly. Actually, before leaving the scenario, he was already dissatisfied with this trick that his brother Jew had left behind, but he did not have the time to bring it up. There is no point in bringing it up, Feng Bujua said. It was me who made the trade with Fu Ling, not our team. So be it. After all, we have already cleared the scenario, Hong Hu said. By the way, Atobi should be fine, right? Imaginative Horse seemed to be reminded of something and added, After I left the scenario, I realized that he has been offline. Of course, he is fine. Feng Bujua added. He is so young. Do you think he would be scared to death? He shrugged. He was probably restricted from logging in. The game manual states that it is a protection mechanism for players who are scared offline. He probably will not log in again tonight. Oh, I see. Brother Jew was obviously the kind of person who did not know how to study the game manual. Then, the 4 of them talked about the details of the script and discussed some problems with the plot. After chatting for more than 10 minutes, they dispersed. Before the chat ended, Feng Bujua added them as friends. After Hong Hu said, "We'd better stay away from each other," they removed the friend list. After exiting the nightmare scenario, Brother Jew was indeed quite tired, but he still planned to deal with some things before going offline. He was not in a hurry to claim the reward, but went to the market to do some simple business. After arriving at Area 101, Feng Bujua headed straight for the supply store. He took out the elf demigod, meat, goat, might have wolf blood, meat and lizard, heart of fear, meat from his inventory, and sold them to the store. These items were all normal, so they were not listed in the reward system. However, when they were sold at the store, they were surprisingly expensive. This was especially true for the meat from the god of wandering, Walker, which was sold for several thousand game coins. Brother Jew could use this money to buy life points, recovery potions, and ammo. Under the curious gazes of the surrounding players, Feng Bujue completed this bloody transaction and ran back to the login lobby. Then it was time to draw the loot. Brother Jew quickly claimed the 4 puzzle cards. After looking at the content of the cards, he placed puzzle card, ping pong, puzzle card, father, puzzle card, spider, and puzzle card, countdown into the box in the storage room. Then, he came to the remaining glass pillar. Please select your additional reward. 1. Randomly draw a piece of equipment corresponding to your level. After the update, there's a chance of getting a random tool or other item. 2. 50,000 game coins. 3. 17,200,000 EXP. The EXP reward was 10 times more than the Team Nightmare scenario, but Brother Jew naturally ignored it. Before the system finished reading out the prompts, he decisively chose the first option. The white light reappeared, and it slowly took shape. This time, the equipment looked very small, like something that could be held in one hand. When the light faded, Feng Bujue focused his eyes, and what appeared before him was a pipe. Item name, oxygen pipe. Item type, other quality, excellent, special effect. When inhaling, you will obtain a small amount of oxygen. Equip requirement, none, bound after 1 use. Remark, there's no need to light it, no need to smoke it, just put it in your mouth. When you smoke it, it will emit smoke, but only pure oxygen will enter your lungs. Feng Bujue held the wooden pipe in front of his eyes and studied it closely. It was brown in color, and the surface was very smooth. There were no cracks or imperfections. The handle was darker in color, and there was a line of words carved on it. Smoking is harmful to your health. Ah, this is not bad. Feng Bujue mumbled to himself as he put the pipe in his mouth and took a few puffs. He did not light it, nor did he put any tobacco in it, but wisps of white smoke drifted out from the pipe, and the smoke had a strong fragrance. This is good stuff. Feng Bujue took the pipe out from his mouth and said, "With this, I can survive in a low-oxygen environment for a long time." He had just obtained this item, and he was already thinking about it. In future killing games, if the environment permits, I can consider dragging the opponent to the bottom of the sea or high up in the sky for a battle of attrition. That should be very interesting. Since it was something with practical value, Brother Jew naturally would not destroy it. He took the opportunity to put it into his inventory. Finally, he checked his overall condition again. He opened the menu and clicked the option to go offline. Chapter 587. Under the night sky, S-City was like a mysterious lady. Her charming smile made your heart beat faster, and her enchanting figure made your imagination run wild. Countless people fell into the abyss of desire just by looking at her, but she was just an illusion, a fantasy. You could feel her beside you, but you could never hold her in your arms. June 6th, 9:00 p.m. The hustle and bustle of the day fermented in the night sky, turning into a life of debauchery and debauchery. At night, in front of a luxurious restaurant in the city center of S-City, more than 30 young people walked out of the restaurant. It was the beginning of summer, and they were still dressed in formal attire. Regardless of gender, they were all wearing luxury brands from head to toe. Among them, there was one person who was particularly eye-catching. First of all, she was a beauty, an indisputable beauty. It was not an exaggeration to say that her beauty was like a lotus flower shaming the jade. But this was not the reason why she was eye-catching, because there was no lack of beauties in this group. There were many women around her, and their looks and temperaments were quite bright and eye-catching. The reason why she stood out was because she was wearing an extremely ordinary black long-sleeved t-shirt and jeans. Her hair was casually tied behind her head, and she basically did not put on much makeup for someone who came to attend a class reunion. This dressing was a bit too casual. As everyone knew, you could dress casually in any kind of occasion except for this occasion. You could only look casual on the surface, but you had to take it seriously in your heart. After all, no one wanted their old classmates to think that they were not doing well. This was human nature. But Li Ruoyu, this weirdo, she was really perfunctory and casual. In her opinion, whether it was branded or cheap, it did not mean anything at all, because she was very clear that the people who came to this gathering were not doing badly. Haha, look at you guys, your alcohol tolerance is so bad. Who's bad? Let's continue at the KTV later. Okay, who's afraid of who? As long as you don't use your broken voice to attract the security. Tease a broken voice queen like you still has the nerve to talk about me. Hey, don't fight with me later. No matter what, I should be paying for the KTV, right? Don't be polite with me. Just drink as much as you want. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the group seemed a little tipsy. They chatted and laughed in high spirits. Only Li Ruoyu stood at the side silently. No one took the initiative to strike up a conversation with her. Ruoyu. Suddenly, someone called out to her. To Li Ruoyu's classmates, this voice was very unfamiliar. Many people turned their heads, wanting to see which male compatriot dared to take the initiative to talk to the female killer nickname. In the end, they saw a stranger. It was a young man who looked to be around 24 or 25 years old. Although he couldn't be considered elegant, he could be considered valiant and handsome. The trace of unruly evil aura between his brows was a unique temperament that others could not imitate. Why are you here? When Li Ruoyu first saw Feng Bujue, she really didn't react. Today's brother Ju was very different from usual. She didn't know where he got a branded suit from, nor did she know where he got a pair of branded leather shoes from, nor did she know where he got a Bugatti parked behind him. She didn't know what was wrong with him, but he actually washed himself clean and combed his hair. Hey, I'm here to pick you up. Feng Bujue showed a gentle smile. Didn't you say that we might drink today? I calculated the time and drove here to wait for you. Oh, the classmates quickly showed an I understand expression. I didn't expect the female killer to have a boyfriend. That's something worth celebrating. Relatively speaking, that guy is really inspiring. Hey, Li Ruoyu's boyfriend is quite handsome. What? You want to steal his girlfriend? Did you see what kind of car he's driving? TSK. I'm just saying, I can tell that they're rich second generations. They're well matched. Why would I want to join the fun? Indifference, disregard, ridicule, disdain, envy, jealousy, all kinds of emotions spread in the crowd, but no one was truly happy for Li Ruoyu. It had to be said, her popularity was really bad. Before Brother Ju finished speaking, Li Ruoyu quickly understood the situation in front of her. She sighed and turned to the classmates beside her. Today, I'll go back first. Oh, go, we all understand. A few of the more lively female classmates quickly responded. They were the organizers of this gathering, and they were also the ones who had done well in the past year after graduation. When they heard that Li Ruoyu was going to leave, they naturally couldn't ask for anything more. In fact, halfway through the meal, they felt that they shouldn't have invited Li Ruoyu. They felt that she was an extra person. She sat at the side, drinking by herself, and didn't say a word. They didn't know if they should say that she was pitiful or sad. When the few girls spoke, the few classmates standing close to them also echoed. Thus, Li Ruoyu politely nodded and said goodbye to everyone. Then, she turned around and immediately put on a "you owe me a lot of money" face, and looked at Brother Ju. She approached step by step, but Feng Bujue wasn't nervous at all. He still stood there elegantly with a smile on his face. Several seconds later, Li Ruoyu very naturally hooked her arm around Brother Ju's arm, and then dragged him away with a tug. Not long after, the two got into the sports car. Feng Bujue started the engine and drove away. The Bugatti's taillights quickly disappeared into the street. Why don't you explain? Li Ruoyu sat in the front passenger seat and asked before she even fastened her seatbelt. Well, your cousin called me and said that you were going to attend the graduation anniversary party today. Feng Bujue replied. She also said the restaurant's address and the time of the meal, and then she hung up. Why'd she tell you that? Ruoyu asked again. Oh, Maybe she foresaw that you would definitely be in an awkward situation like just now. Phone Bujua laughed, so she gave me a hint and asked me to help you out. Who's awkward? Ruayu whispered. I'm fine. What's fine? Phone Bujua sighed. Even I, an outsider, want to cry when I see you. You look out of place from head to toe. Did he drink alone when he was having dinner? Don't you know that it's hard to drink alone? It's none of your business. Ruayu's tone suddenly turned cold. You're angry, right? Okay. Phone Buju didn't seem to care. Come at me, it's fine. I have a big heart and strong wrists. At this time, Ruayu's face was red. It wasn't clear if she was really drunk or just angry. After a short silence, she suddenly said, Do you like me? Brother Ju was shocked. He turned his head to glance at Ruayu. You sure know how to jump from place to place. Sorry, I'm quite slow when it comes to this. If you do, please tell me as soon as possible so that I can sort out my thoughts, Li Ruayu replied. Well, Brother Ju thought for a few seconds and gave a shocking answer. Not necessarily, oh. Ruayu actually agreed casually. Silence fell again. However, the conversation between the two gods wasn't over yet. Phone Bujua did not expect that a question like that could be brushed aside so easily. But since it had already been brushed aside, he might as well change the topic. Ah, by the way, aren't you going to ask about my outfit? You borrowed it from Xiaotan. Ruoyu interrupted. He even lent you a Bugatti. So, a designer suit is just a matter of convenience. Tisk. So you saw through it instantly. Phone Bujua muttered. Actually, you don't have to do this. Ruoyu said in a low voice. I don't care what those people think of me. In the future, I won't attend such gatherings anymore. Sigh, I don't want to be like this either. Phone Bujua sighed helplessly. Unfortunately, the world is generally like this. It's us. Ruoyu turned to look at Brother Ju and continued. Isn't it strange? Ha, yeah. Phone Bujua looked back at her and smiled meaningfully. But actually, I think this is pretty good. Chapter 588. On the 8th of June, on a Sunday afternoon, inside the recording studio of a TV station's variety show, Phone Bujua sat inside a resting room, waiting for the recording of I Am a Writer revival contest to start. A few minutes earlier, the makeup artist from the show had come in to fix his appearance and hair before leaving. Now, there was only one cameraman left in the room. Due to the need of the recording, unless Brother Ju went to the toilet, the cameraman had to follow him. This was also a relatively popular filming method nowadays, combining variety shows and reality shows to create a sense of reality by recording the contrast between on and off stage. But in reality, it was not to be taken too seriously. Things that should be cut would be cut during editing. Dong dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Come in, Phone Bujua answered casually. It was impossible for him to stop someone from entering because the door was not locked. Hey, Bujua, are you ready? A middle-aged man wearing a cap walked in. He was wearing an ugly work outfit, holding a tablet in his hand, and a tool belt around his waist. Those who did not know him would have mistaken him for a production manager. But in reality, this unassuming middle-aged man was the main director of the show, Fei Ran. Actually, there's nothing much to prepare. Phone Bujua collapsed on the sofa and looked at the director weakly. It would be best if we could get this done as soon as possible. Fei Ran laughed and patted the cameraman on his shoulder. He then signaled for him to turn off the camera. The cameraman nodded and stopped recording. Hey, you. Fei Ran took several steps forward and sat down next to Brother Ju. This is a show for you, not a serious punishment, he said as he took out a pack of cigarettes. You don't mind if I take a puff, right? It's fine, Phone Bujua answered. Fei Ran lit the cigarette and took a puff. By the way, have you seen the result of the online poll? No, Phone Bujua immediately replied. Ha ha ha. Fei Ran laughed as she blew out a puff of smoke. All right, I'll tell you then. You're in second place. It doesn't sound good, Phone Bujua muttered. There's something even worse. Fei Ran said half-jokingly. Actually, the number of votes for the person in first place is fake. Huh. Phone Bujua squinted at the director and said, I'm a contestant. This kind of thing, it's not very good for you to tell me. Sigh, it's an open secret. You're the only one who doesn't know. Fei Ran took another puff of her cigarette and turned to the cameraman who was playing with his phone. Hey, Xiao Wu, you know about this too, right? Xiao Wu shrugged. I know. That person's fans have been cursing at each other for half a month now. There are hundreds of posts on the internet. Take a look. Fei Ran immediately looked at Brother Bujue and said, Bujue, you're too careless about our show. If I didn't call you, you probably wouldn't even know that you've been nominated for the revival round. Yeah, I'm just praying that I won't appear in the results, Feng Bujue added. Haha, all right, Fei Ran said. Anyway, I've told you the situation. You'd better prepare yourself. Huh? Feng Bujue looked confused. Prepare what? Think about it. Fei Ran said. You're so popular, but you don't want to win. You have to do something, right? Oh, I mean, try to be as bad as possible, right? Feng Bujue replied. Yes, but you can't mess around like you did last time, Fei Ran said. I told you last time, if you want to be eliminated, the best way is to be mediocre. Oh, Feng Bujue answered. He thought about it for a few seconds before adding, let me confirm it first. He turned to look at Fei Ran. Actually, the winner of this revival match has already been decided internally, right? Fei Ran heard this and was slightly taken aback. He took another puff of his cigarette and replied after a few seconds, why do you ask? The process of speculation isn't that complicated. Feng Bujue raised his hands and rested them behind his head. He said casually, since you know that there's something wrong with the contestant who got the first place, but you still let it happen, I'm sure you want to see this result happen. Also, this episode is supposed to be broadcast at the end of June. It should have been recorded in the middle of June, but now it's been brought forward by a week. This is probably to prevent the vote manipulation incident from spreading further. He looked at Fei Ran calmly and said, so, I'm guessing the winner of this revival round has already been decided. And you, director, you're giving me a heads up because you think I might ruin it. As soon as he said this, Fei Ran's expression changed. For the next 30 seconds, the lounge fell into silence. Half a minute later, Fei Ran took a deep puff of her cigarette and put it out. She looked up and said, Xiao Wu, can you leave for a moment? The cameraman didn't say anything and tactfully left. He didn't forget to close the door behind him. I don't think so. Fei Ran looked at Brother Ju and said in a deep voice, you're a smart person. There are some things that I'll tell you here. I hope it won't spread outside this room. Okay, go ahead. Feng Bujue crossed his legs and said casually. Fei Ran looked at Brother Ju again and said in a low voice, you guessed right. The winner of this revival round has already been decided. It's the winner of the online poll, Night of Fire. He raised his hand and made a gesture of pointing upwards. Business is business. There are some things that even I can't control. Only the higher-ups have the final say. Do you understand? Of course. Feng Bujue smirked. At this moment, his eyes were filled with disdain, but he still said politely, I understand. Director, it's not easy for you. Fei Ran smiled bitterly. It's okay. He shook his head. To be honest, my original intention for this show was definitely not to turn it into what it is today. It's a pity. He wanted to say something, but stopped himself, looking a little helpless. If everyone was like you, many things in this world would be pure. If everyone was like me, the world would have been over a long time ago. Feng Bujue smiled and quickly changed the topic. Okay, I understand. Director Fei, don't worry. He patted his chest. Trust me, I'll definitely be eliminated naturally. There won't be any traces of my performance. Fei Ran stared at Brother Ju for 2 seconds. I have my doubts. Chapter 589. It was a familiar stage and a familiar setting. The lighting technician used a flashy trick that was enough to trigger epilepsy to open the show. In the dark contestant area, the 7 riders of the revival competition, including Feng Bujue, were already in position. The cameraman at the first camera position moved the camera lens at a certain frequency, creating a kind of dispensable motion. The director gave an order through the microphone, and the live DJ started to play noisy music with a strong rhythm. The next second, the host went on stage. Oscar was still the same Oscar. Today, he was wearing a gray casual suit and a pair of dark jeans. He had a headset in his left ear and a microphone hanging from his mouth. Just like every previous episode, he was not affected by the square dance music around him. He walked calmly to the center of the stage. The lights stopped and focused on him. Oscar looked into the camera and read out the opening line in a clear voice. "Welcome to I Am a Writer. I'm a host, Oscar." Then he bowed slightly. The lights lit up the audience. Under the director's command, the 4 cameras that were aimed at the audience started to move. The moment the audience clapped and cheered, the camera panned over. The staff had done this kind of opening countless times, and they were very familiar with it. Unless Oscar accidentally fell on the stage, it was all done in one take. Live audience in front of the TV and friends on the internet. After the BGM, Oscar immediately continued. "Today is a special day." He paused for a few seconds and turned slightly to the side. Today, on the stage of I Am a Writer, there are 7 contestants that everyone is very familiar with. He was a professional host, after all. The combination of tone and small movements was just right. As he spoke, Oscar took a few steps back and stood in front of the contestant area. Since the first episode of I Am a Writer was broadcast, we have experienced 20 nights like this. Oscar continued. During this period, our program has welcomed 26 writers with unique and unforgettable styles. He took a deep breath. But in the end, only 7 people can make it to the final stage. At this point, he raised his arm up 45 degrees and gestured at the big screen. The photos of the 6 writers appeared on the screen. Their appearance and expressions were edited to make them look like members of the mafia. Their pen names were marked at the bottom of their photos. Beside the 6 photos, there was a blank space. The blank space showed a black shadow with a big question mark above it. So far, there are already 6 contestants who have gone through all the trials and entered the grand finals, but Oscar continued in a slow tone. There is still one vacancy. He waved his arm again and pointed at the contestant's seat beside him. And this chance to enter the grand finals. Who will win it? Night Fire. Night Fire. Before the host could finish his sentence, a group of people in the audience had already started shouting. Their chants were neat, their shouts were loud, and their reactions were quick. They had the demeanor of a professional. The fans of the other writers also belatedly shouted for the writers they supported. However, most of these shouts did not amount to much and sounded a little scattered. "I'm the writer, Resurrection Night. And now," Oscar slid to the side. "The curtain is lifted." After Oscar finished that sentence, the lights and the live DJ started another round of noise under the director's order. Then, it was time to introduce the contestants. Just like the previous recordings, the part where the sponsors were mentioned and the advertisement was recorded separately, so Oscar's dialogue was sometimes a bit out of place. Oscar read, "All right, enough with the small talk. Let's take a look. The 7 contestants standing on this stage of counterattack are..." The lights for contestant number 1 came on from above. It lit up a young man who was slightly rotund and wearing glasses. Contestant number 1, Soda. This time, Oscar did not give a long introduction, nor did he read the main editor's comment from the show. This was because, after a long period of revision, this part of the show had been removed and the introduction of the contestants would be added in the form of subtitles at the bottom of the screen. There were 2 main reasons for this change. 1. Since only one contestant would be eliminated each episode, many contestants would appear again, so there was no need to read every episode. 2. The save time could be used to insert more advertisements. Contestant number 2, Yamucha. Oscar's introduction continued, and the lights above the contestants' seats lit up one by one as he spoke. Even though he had a pen name that could win the World Martial Arts Tournament, the writer himself was just a boy who looked weak. One look at his face, and one could tell he was at most 20. In fact, Yamucha was indeed only 19 this year. He started writing in his first year of high school and dropped out to write full-time in his 3rd year. Last year, he used a very popular fantasy novel to enter the ranks of the top online writers. Contestant number 3, Spring Breeze Blows the Earth. Oscar continued. This was a middle-aged man around 40 with a pair of black-rimmed glasses. His series of sci-fi novels were very popular. Uncle Earth was a journalist in his early years and later became a freelance writer. Initially, he wrote a sci-fi novel that was several 100,000 words long out of interest, but he was rejected many times. Therefore, he tried to serialize it online. He didn't expect it to be so popular. As for his pen name, it was actually just a phrase that popped up after he casually typed GG on the keyboard. When he registered his author account, he didn't think that he would become popular. He just casually came up with this pen name with a mentality that since no one wants this manuscript anyway, it's better to send it out for people to read than to destroy it. Contestant number 4, Chainsaw Rose. This was a personality writer who was famous for her gothic style of writing and dressing. To be honest, her novels didn't sell well and were very niche. But fortunately, her father was a rich businessman and he knew some friends in the publishing industry. Just like that, her strange novels were printed and sold, and it caused a certain social reaction. Some people said she was making a fuss about nothing. Some said she was cynical, and some people, mostly minors, saw her as a spiritual teacher. But no matter what, if someone commented, it meant that someone was paying attention. In this era where all kinds of ideas collided, her novels were unique. Contestant number 5, Bandit General. This was a young man in his late 20s. His face was very white. He had small eyes, slanted bangs, and his clothes were quite fashionable. At first glance, he looked like a Korean male artist. He could be considered a veteran online writer. He had quite a few popular novels in urban, fantasy, and other popular themes. However, he had never really become popular. His slightly thin writing style and fixed plot routines were also repeatedly criticized by people. Comments like poor writing style, love to exaggerate, creativity is getting more and more boring could be said to be his daily routine. Oscar introduced the contestants as he walked, and finally, they arrived at the seats of the last 2 contestants. The order of the contestants in the revival round was based on the popularity of the online voting. The higher the ranking, the lower the seat. So Bujue was contestant number 6 today. To be honest, Bujue didn't expect that Soda, who appeared in the same round as him, would be the least popular of the 7 contestants. Even though it was not bad to be in the top 7 among the 20 eliminated contestants, the feeling of being at the bottom was not good. Contestant number 6. When Oscar came to Brother Ju's seat, he made a brief eye contact with him. Bujue. 2 seconds later, Oscar turned around and said, "And the last contestant number 7, Nightfire." Earlier, whenever he announced the pseudonym of a contestant, there would be a wave of applause and cheers from the audience, and the waves of cheers were increasing. It was not until the introduction of Nightfire that it reached its peak. Nightfire was a man under the age of 30, and he didn't look that impressive. But he was a new internet god this year. With the help of an urban novel, he was in the limelight. The popularity of his works was even comparable to that of top-tier writers, such as Shin Tianzong and Vegetable Fruit. I'm a writer. Feel free to ridicule me. Well, as usual, Oscar returned to the center of the stage with a smile after the audience quieted down a little. Next should be the segment to name this episode, but he changed the topic. This episode is a little special because we already have a title. He raised his hand and gestured to the big screen. Indeed, the words Resurrection Night were displayed on the screen. Therefore, we won't have a naming session for this episode. Oscar glanced at the camera with a mysterious gaze, and after he said that, there was a long pause that made people uncomfortable. Then he continued, "The changes for this episode are far more than just this. In the revival round, we will see a completely new set of rules." At this time, the DJ played a few more sound effects, and the lights suddenly flashed, creating a somewhat tense atmosphere. There's no need to be so nervous." Oscar smiled. "How about this? The contestants for this episode are all our old friends. At the start of this episode, we'll have them greet everyone one by one and say a few words about their return." At that moment, Faye Rand said through the earpiece, "Oscar, do it in reverse." The director was undoubtedly doing Nightfire a favor because there were only a few lines like this that were repeated over and over again. It was better to start first. After all, when the other contestants spoke, the content would be repeated. After Oscar received the order, he quietly walked to Nightfire's side. How about this? We'll start with Nightfire. Nightfire smiled at the camera. Hello everyone, I'm Nightfire. I'm back, and I hope to improve on this stage. I look forward to your support. It was a few simple sentences, and his fans in the audience cheered loudly in response. It was time for Oscar. I don't think so. Oscar's smile froze. Say something. There's no need for a self-introduction. You've already said that. When Fong Bujue spoke, he frowned and turned his face to the side. His eyes were glued to the big screen. For comeback speech, I think I'm still not used to going from being unknown to being liked. He paused. But there's something else that I wanted to say a few minutes ago. He said darkly. Just now, the big screen showed a promotional picture of 7 contestants missing one. What is going on? Is there a need to make it look like a wanted list? Are they going to choose a writer or a shichibukai? Chapter 590. Huh. Oscar laughed awkwardly. He glanced at the director, hoping that Fei Ran would help him out of this situation. But Fei Ran did not do anything. Sigh. Oscar sighed, deeply internally. As a professional host, as long as the director did not stop the show, he had to control the situation and figure out a way to make the show continue. Of course, this wasn't very difficult. After all, Oscar was a professional. Finding something to talk about and changing the topic were basic skills in the hosting industry. Even if he didn't have a script in hand or an inscription machine in front of him, he could still talk for 10 minutes straight without repeating anything. Bujue, if you continue to complain like that, when a show is broadcasted, we will make your picture very ugly. Oscar quickly removed the smile from his face and said in a joking tone. At that moment, Fei Ran made her move. He raised his arm and made a gesture, causing the audience to laugh. Just like that, amid the hilarious atmosphere, Brother Ju's speech ended. From a stage effect, it was not bad. After being pranked by him, Nightfire's performance appeared rather normal. Bandit General, please say something. Oscar did not give Brother Ju the chance to speak again. After he said that, he took several steps forward and walked to the seat for contestant number 5. Hello everyone, I am Bandit General. Bandit General raised his right hand and waved at the camera. I hope that everyone will continue to support me. He had a smile on his face, but he suddenly used a wicked gaze to glare to his left. I will use my ability to win everyone's applause. Fong Bujue used his hand to hold his chin and tilted his head to look at the man. He laughed internally. Humph, this man seems to be hiding something behind his words. With that in mind, he turned his head slightly to look at the other side of him. And as he expected, Nightfire returned a glare and immediately revealed a condescending expression and scoffed. Is this the start of a war? Brother Ju shook his head and thought, I really shouldn't have come. This atmosphere is not right. Fong Bujue was not wrong. The situation of this revival match was very different from the one he had participated in earlier. Just as Fei Ran said, I am a writer had slowly deviated from his original intention. Actually, during the planning stage of the show, the TV station's management did not have high hopes for this project, so they only provided a small budget and scheduled the broadcast at 10 p.m. every Monday. In the first and second episodes of I Am a Writer, the show only invited 2 first-rate writers, and they were there as friends. The other 5 were writers who were either not very famous or past their prime. Overall, this show was a case where it was likely to be axed after the pilot was over. Who would have thought the team led by Fei Ran would turn the show around? With limited funds, they produced excellent quality works, making I Am a Writer a dark horse in the ratings of the season. Therefore, the TV station's management reacted quickly. They began to increase their investment in various aspects and move the broadcast to the weekend primetime slot. Soon, a large number of sponsors flocked to the show, and businesses that bought the online copyright also threw in money to bid. The writers who went on stage became more and more famous. Basically, as long as the show invited them, they would come. Even if the writers themselves did not want to come, the companies that signed contracts with them would find ways to get them in. It was when the show was on the rise that Fong Bujue was chosen by the few main editors behind the scenes. After the show contacted Sirui Corporation's cultural promotion department, they finally found him. Brother Ju happened to be short of money at the time, so when he heard that there was an appearance fee, he agreed. However, as I Am a Writer became more and more popular, the interference from the higher-ups increased. The TV station's management, sponsors, people with relevant interests, and so on. These people did not know anything about professional matters, but they would always make some self-righteous requests. Some of the requests were made due to business considerations, which was reasonable. The main reason was that the investors wanted to ensure their own interests. Some of them had the mentality of, I'm the boss since I'm the one who spends the money. They just wanted to get involved and increase their sense of presence and intelligence. In short, from then on, the tone of the show gradually changed. The original harmonious and polite atmosphere faded and was replaced by a sense of competition. Thus, writers like Nightfire and the Bandit General also joined the show. In fact, according to the core team of the show, they would not invite such writers. But when you're under someone else's roof, you have no choice but to lower your head. The sponsors didn't know what kind of writer was suitable for this show. All they could do was open up a search engine and search for keywords like popular writer on the internet. Then, they would run to the professionals and point out what they thought was a good suggestion. Fei Ran was also quite troubled because almost every episode of the show, he and the behind-the-scenes team had to adjust the rules and content of each segment to cater to the needs of various parties. In hindsight, I'm a Writer had become what it was today. The writers no longer came with the attitude of learning from each other or showing themselves. They came to win and compete. On and off the stage, in virtual reality. There were verbal battles between fans, online ghostwriters, and even writers attacking each other in the text of their works. Perhaps this was the case with the saying, scholars despise each other. This was what the businessmen wanted to see. They wanted to show conflict and contradiction. They wanted to show hypocrisy in the midst of cruel elimination. By selling these tricks that could only fool fools, they wanted to gain attention and gain benefits. For this, they could strip the last bit of pride from the scholars without hesitation. If Fong Bujue had been paying attention to this show, he would not have come today. At least at this moment, he already felt that anyone who came to this stage had already lost. To use a phrase often used by Li Yunlong, the protagonist of Drawing Sword, as an analogy, Brother Ju, Nightfire, and Bandit General were passers-by. They could not even pee in the same pot. Wow, Bandit General is very imposing. Oscar's questioning continued. He came to the seat of contestant number 4. Rose, you should say a few words. It was obviously inappropriate to use the pen name Chainsaw Rose to refer to a girl in her early 20s. Fortunately, she had an English name. I am me. Rose was dressed in black. Her bangs covered her eyebrows, and her face was covered in heavy, smoky makeup. Her pale face was 70% ghostly, and her voice was full of decadence. I have nothing to say to a bunch of walking corpses. So this goth girl is a Chinibyu. Fong Bujue turned his head and looked at her. He thought to himself, she can be so popular even with such words. What kind of mentality does the audience have these days? What are you looking at? Suddenly, Rose noticed Brother Ju's gaze, and she said that to him on the spot. Why do you care about the empty gaze of a walking corpse? Fong Bujue cleverly gave an answer that the Chinibyu girl could not refute. Humph. Rose snorted coldly, and then she took out a cigarette and lighter from her trouser pocket. Hey, you two are going against the natural order. The veins on Oscar's forehead were protruding. He complained fiercely in his heart. Are you messing with me? You're messing with me, aren't you? One lunatic is fine, but two at the same time. How am I supposed to smooth things over? Why hasn't the director called for a cut yet? If this goes on, the situation will get out of control sooner or later. Ding! Click! The flame of the lighter lit up. Rose lit a cigarette for herself and exhaled faintly. White smoke drifted out from her black lipsticked lips, which was particularly eye-catching. Oh, she seemed to have just remembered something and said to Oscar, Do you mind if I smoke here? You're already smoking. Why are you still asking? Oscar roared in his heart, but on the surface, he still forced himself to be calm. Ha! Go ahead. This was not the first time Oscar had dealt with Chainsaw Rose. Based on his experience, it was best to treat her with the cold shoulder and ignore her. If you argued with her, for example, smoking is bad for your health, she would most likely reply with, my heart is already dead, and this body is just a rotten skin, or some other gothic statement, which would leave you speechless. Keep going. At this time, Fay Rant's voice came through the earpiece again. He said excitedly in the staff's dedicated channel, I have a feeling that this episode will become a legend. What kind of legend is this? Oscar was breaking out in cold sweat. He thought to himself, Director Fay, you're already in your 40s. Don't you feel ashamed saying such childish lines? Okay, understood. Let's do it. Unexpectedly, the members of the other units all responded to Fearon's words with passion. Their fighting spirits were high, and they were all on high alert. F*CK me. What kind of people are on this show? Oscar thought, I have to resign for the second season next year, unless they offer me double my salary. Or 5 times. I can consider a 20% increase. Then, next. Oscar did not show his thoughts on his face. He walked quickly to the third seat. Brother Earth, it's your turn. The spring breeze of reform. Uncle Earth raised his hand to adjust his black-rimmed glasses. I hope I won't let down the friends who supported me today. Even though it was short, it was very sincere. Oscar replied and moved a few steps. He turned around and said, Yamucha, what do you have to say to the audience? Actually, I'm already very happy to be able to sit here today, Yamucha replied. I came here with the intention of learning from the seniors, but I also hope to get a good result. Okay, I look forward to your performance. Oscar finally walked to the first seat. Finally, let's welcome the person we are very familiar with, Soda. He paused before continuing. Of the 7 contestants today, Soda has stayed the longest in the actual competition, so his ability is undeniable. Now, what do you want to say to the audience? I came after I received the notice. Soda shrugged. He was relatively calm when he joined the show. I just hope that I can perform well today. I believe you will, Oscar said. At this point, the warm-up was over, and Oscar heaved a sigh of relief. He turned around and returned to the center of the stage. He looked into the camera and said, after hearing what the contestants have to say, I wonder, who do you think will win tonight? Please send your answer to. After that, there was a formal monologue about the SMS quiz and the advertisement. When it was officially broadcast, there would be 1 or 2 minutes of advertisement. After Oscar finished the monologue, he paused for a few seconds. He changed his posture and expression and said, Welcome back to I Am the Writer, Resurrection Night. The music and lights took advantage of the situation. Let's cut to the chase and enter the first round. Oscar raised his arm and pointed, following the words on the big screen. Let's begin. Isn't this the same as last time? Fong Bujua asked. Could it be that the rules have been changed? Of course, just as I said earlier. Oscar's words confirmed Brother Ju's speculation. The rules for this episode have been changed. Please look at the big screen. As he spoke, the complete rules were displayed on the big screen. The contestants did not need to look at it because the screen before them was also displayed. They only needed to lower their heads to see it. Okay, after the rules were displayed for a while, Oscar said, First, let's take a look at what the first keyword is. Ready, go. He yelled, and the words in the middle of the screen started to scroll. When Fong Bujua was there last time, the words that scrolled on the screen were event, character, animal, landscape, and so on. But this time, the number of these random keywords appeared to have decreased. Perhaps the normal audience and the contestants did not notice this. But Fong Bujua used his excellent dynamic vision to notice this. Stop! Oscar yelled again after several seconds. The keywords on the screen suddenly stopped at the word emotion. The audience immediately became restless. This seemed to be a keyword that the masses love to hear and see. Then, Oscar said to the camera, according to the new rules, all the contestants will be given a keyword. Furthermore, the keywords that everyone received were the same. He purposely changed his expression. In other words, for this chapter, all 7 of us present here were working under the same conditions. And the time is still only 7 minutes. Now, he turned around and said, "The first round officially begins." After Oscar said that, the second keyword appeared on the panel before the contestants, time. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have said many times, all the writing sessions of this show are recorded in real time. There's no tampering. Oscar started to get information out of them. Every contestant that comes to our studio is working without the aid of the internet or any other tools. At this point, Oscar heard Faye Rant's voice in his earpiece again. The director seemed to have given them a new order. Oscar kept talking as he memorized this order in his mind. Then he very naturally followed up on what he had said earlier. Based on the special rules of our Night of Resurrection, this time, the order in which the chapters are announced will be based on the time that each contestant finishes. He turned back to say, "Dear contestants, after you confirm that you have finished, you can click the Submit button at the top of the screen, and the system will record the time that you have finished." Beep. Before he finished, Brother Ju's console had already rung. Fong Bujua had his hands behind his head as he leaned back in his chair and looked around. Night Fire and the Bandit General, who sat on his left and right, were indeed affected by this sudden change. Both of them could not help but glance at Brother Ju, and they started to get nervous. Oscar was startled for 2 seconds before he said, "Oh, we saw it. Contestant Bujua has already finished. He used only 52 seconds. That is incredible." Even though he was unwilling, out of professional ethics, Oscar still sided with Brother Ju. At this point, it was time for the cameraman to come on stage. It was the cameraman, Xiao Wu, who carried the camera. With the director's order, he quickly walked to Oscar and followed him to the contestants' area. After taking a close-up shot of the 6 contestants, the camera finally landed on Brother Ju's face. Oscar walked to the 6 contestants' area and said, "Bujua, you finished so fast." "Yes," Fong Bujua answered weakly. "Don't tell me you handed in a blank script?" Oscar asked half-jokingly. "Do you want to take a look?" Brother Ju asked. "Huh?" Oscar smiled at the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the benefit of being a host. Let me take a look." 2 seconds later, Oscar's smile froze. What he saw was from knowing each other until now, from indifference to concern, from rejection to dependence, from strangers to love, from trust to suspicion, from love to hurt, from dazzling to pale, from being together to separating, from being touched to being sentimental, from understanding to blaming, from anticipation to helplessness, from ecstasy to sorrow. Chapter 591. Hey, these are the lyrics, right? Oscar's heart was filled with thousands of beasts, but he had to hold it in. He could not say it out loud. And you didn't change a single word. You copied it exactly. Even if it's an old song, many people have heard it before. Even if not, after the show is aired, people will find it on the internet. What's wrong? Fong Bujua looked at Oscar and asked nonchalantly. Bujua. Oscar replied. "Are you sure you want to submit this?" Since the audience had not seen what Fong Bujua had written, Oscar thought there was still room to salvage the situation. He tried his best to signal Brother Ju with his eyes and said in a strange tone, "The things that you've written look quite familiar." He glanced at the camera. "We still have plenty of time. Do you want to change it?" What he meant was, "I already know that this is not your original song, so you should change it as soon as possible." But Fong Bujua did not appreciate it. "Of course, it looks familiar," Brother Ju replied with a relaxed expression. "These are the lyrics." He admitted it. He just said it in front of the camera. Oscar roared internally. "Is that really okay?" He quickly turned around to look at the director for help, waiting for further instructions. "Continue recording? It's fine," Faye Rand said through the communication channel. "The rules did not say that it's not allowed." "Ha! Bujua, you are quite honest." Oscar had no choice but to try to come up with something nice to say. But Brother Ju still did not appreciate it. "I was too lazy to think about it myself," Fong Bujua replied instantly. "So, I just copied something that fits the theme." Once that was said, Even the audience did not know how to react. What is this kid planning? Oscar thought to himself. You're not only digging your own grave, you're shameless as well. At that moment, Oscar had already turned his face away from the camera. As someone who had a good sense of the camera, he did that on purpose because he did not want his expression to appear on screen. In any case, the rules allow it. Feng Buju added. He still had his hands behind his head and assumed a rather arrogant posture. I don't think this is any different from quoting the classics, is it? The difference is huge. Oscar said internally. Quoting the classics is to explain the logic, but you're copying the whole thing without a single line of your own words. Huh. Oscar laughed awkwardly. Fine. We'll see the result later. He had no choice but to get this over with. The photographer, Xiao Wu, was quite smart. When he saw this, he turned the camera around and aimed it at the other writers. He Bujua's words. He Bujua, he Bujua, he Bujua, he announced. He Bujua, Bujua's Oscar, Bujua, 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 and Boot. Maybe we can find some clues from their facial expressions. He cooperated with Xiao Wu's filming and said this, successfully diverting the audience's attention. 7 minutes passed very quickly. One after another, writers clicked on the submit button on the screen. Oscar had been trying to find something to talk about during this period. He said things that appeared to be related to the show, but were actually meaningless. Even so, he would not stay silent for more than 10 seconds. That was the mark of a professional. We don't have much time left. Let us count down from 10 seconds. When there were only 10 seconds left on the screen, Oscar opened his lips to say, 10, 7, 6. He counted down at 10 on the screen and added, time's up. A 5-second background music that was commonly used on the show started, and the lights on the stage flickered. The cameraman, Xiao Wu, adjusted his position and prepared to follow the host. All right, it's time for the reveal. Oscar listened to the relevant information that came through the earpiece as he said, those who are observant already know the order in which we will announce the articles. He paused. I will not beat around the bush. We will start with the first submission. He turned around. Contestant Bujua, please start. Then, he led the camera to Brother Ju. At the same time, the content that Feng Bujua had written appeared on the screen. The audience chattered among themselves, but there was no applause. Oscar recited the whole lyric and said, is indeed well written. He looked at Brother Ju. It fits the two keywords love and time quite well. He changed the topic and said with a smile, unfortunately, this is not something that you came up with. The last sentence was not said by Oscar to ruin Feng Bujua's performance, but by Fei Rant's order through the earpiece. It looked like the director planned to cooperate with Brother Ju and make him lose the first round. Yes, Feng Bujua said shamelessly. It's Mr. Li Zongxing's lyric. But if you copy the whole lyric, Oscar said, the audience might not buy it. It's fine, Feng Bujua replied calmly. Hearing that, Oscar widened his eyes and made a helpless expression at the camera. He shrugged. Then, he walked to the fourth contestant and said, okay, now let's see what kind of content has Rose, who used 5 minutes and 11 seconds to write. The atmosphere at the venue turned cold in that 1 minute. Many of the fans who came to support Feng Bujua were silent. They had no idea what was going on and did not know what to say. On Oscar's side, he had started to reveal the other contestants' articles. Other than Feng Bujua, the other contestants naturally wrote their own content on the spot. The first was Rose. Her paragraph was undoubtedly very gothic. It was full of despair, darkness, death, loneliness, and a strong sense of Chinibu. However, to her surprise, her words actually combined well with the two themes of love and time, and received a rather enthusiastic response. Then it was Amucha. Compared to the other contestants, his writing was not very good. However, he could at least write in a simple and easy-to-understand way. Moreover, his typing speed was very fast. He used the full pinyin input method on the field console, and he was able to type more than 500 words in 6 minutes. So, he wrote a short story of a few hundred words to fit the theme of the event. Unfortunately, the plot of his story was a bit too naive and idealistic. His writing style could not make up for these shortcomings. The whole paragraph did not have a good effect. Then, it was Soda's article. He was a very good storyteller, and his writing style was good. In terms of writing style, he was quite close to Fong Bujue. He also wrote a short story to express the themes of love and time, but the number of words was not as long as Amuch's. However, with a more concise writing style, the response he received was much more enthusiastic than Amuch's. As for the remaining three, Night Fire and the Bandit General both submitted their articles in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Uncle Earth used the handwriting function on the console, which led to a lack of time. He was forced to write until the last second before he was forced to stop. Oscar also read out their articles separately. The description of the Bandit General was okay. It could be said that it followed the rules, but it was not lacking. Uncle Earth's, the ending was rushed, and it was obvious that he was not finished. However, he was the oldest and the most experienced contestant here. There was nothing to say about his writing style. The part that he wrote was enough to resonate with the audience. And the one with the worst effect was probably Night Fire. From the first minute, he had been disturbed by Brother Ju's sudden manic behavior. Night Fire wanted to write a series of parallel sentences in the first person to stir up emotions. But he lost his emotions first. The more he wrote, the more anxious he became, and the more he wrote, the more mistakes he made. In the end, the paragraph that he wrote was incomprehensible. There was no real emotion or gorgeous skill. Fortunately, his live fans worked very hard. After the article was published, they spent a lot of effort to cheer for him. Finally, it slightly improved the audience's impression of the passage. Okay, we have finished watching the performance of all 7 contestants in this round of writing. Oscar visited every contestant and turned back to the center of the stage. The tense moment has come again. The camera on the top of the studio did a wide sweep and aimed at the contestants. Oscar continued, "Friends in the audience, the fate of the contestants is once again in your hands." He paused. "Today, we will cancel the rule of first ballot and second ballot. You will only have one first ballot, and you can only support one contestant." His expression turned serious. "The voting time is 2 minutes. Please cast your most important vote carefully. Now, the voting begins." The next second, intense background music began to play. Xiao Wu carried the close-up camera and rushed forward to give each of the 7 contestants a close-up. Friends who had just turned on the television, the website, or the radio, you are now watching I Am a Writer, Resurrection Night. Oscar continued after a short silence. This abrupt change was also the director's instruction. Obviously, there would be an advertisement and a pre-recorded long speech added here in the future. The first round of voting is still going on intensely. Who will be able to take the lead in the first round? Oscar used his own questions and nonsense to stall for more than a minute. Time's up. Finally, Oscar completed his mission perfectly and gave a long sigh. Okay, today I will announce the winner from. He turned to the big screen. The 7th place, the camera started to get busy. They aimed at the audience, the contestants, and the host from various angles. The winner of I Am a Writer, Resurrection Night, the first round of the 7th place is... Whenever it was this moment, Oscar would pause after each word and drag it out as long as he could. The live DJ was very cooperative and added in a fast-paced sound effect. Bujue. When Oscar read out Brother Ju's pen name, his voice and intonation were rather low. Immediately, there was a clamor from the audience, and there seemed to be some boos mixed in as well. Oscar turned to face the camera and used his eyes to look at Brother Ju. "Bujue, do you have anything to say?" Fong Bujue chuckled coldly. "I don't know. I didn't do well. I don't care how much I did. You're too arrogant," Oscar complained in his heart. "After being exposed for plagiarism, you didn't show the slightest sign of remorse or shame. You actually shamelessly replied with such words. Wait, these are also lyrics. TSK. At this moment, the Night Fire fans in the audience booed in undisguised unison. The audience and neutral parties who supported Brother Ju also maintained their silence. Bujue still has his personality. Oscar smiled stiffly and quickly continued. Then, Next, I'm going to reveal. In order to quickly divert the audience's attention, he did not delay for too long this time and announced, "The writer who won 4th place." His words successfully stunned the audience for a moment. This was because, according to past practice, only the 1st, 2nd, and 7th rankings would be announced in writing. Like I've said before, tonight, many rules will be changed. Oscar smiled mysteriously. The rankings that I will announce today will be 3rd, 4th, and last place. He paused for a second. And the 4 writers who are ranked 1, 2, 6, and 6 will be kept a secret for now. This looks like a way to increase the suspense. Fong Bujue reacted quickly. Once he heard that, he said internally, "Actually, it is to make it easier for them to pull strings behind the scenes. Today, the writer who won the 1st round, the 4th place will be..." Oscar continued, "Our Uncle Earth, the spring breeze of reform." There was a round of applause from the audience. Oscar also walked quickly to the number 4 seat and said with a smile, "Brother Earth, I really admire you. I've never seen anyone enter the top 4 with an unfinished essay in the turn writing into chapters competition. Ha! It is all thanks to the support of our friends in the audience." Uncle Earth pushed on his black-rimmed glasses and replied kindly, "Brother Earth's humility is admirable as well." Oscar smiled. As he spoke, he turned to face the camera. "Okay, next, let us announce the next contestant, who is ranked 3rd in the 1st round." He looked at the camera and put on an expression that said, "Come and beat me up if I don't say it." He stared at the camera for a full 10 seconds before saying, "That is Soda." Another round of cheers came from the audience, but overall, the number of people who cheered for Soda and Uncle Earth added together was less than the number of Nightfire's fans. This was quite a helpless situation. Most of the fans of these two were above 30, and most of them were male. Even though their votes were not bad in the online voting, they had the least number of supporters among the audience that day. This was also due to the organizers' manipulation. Speak of the devil. Oscar walked to Soda. "I was just talking about the contestant who did not finish the essay in the 1st round, huh?" Naturally, Soda knew that Oscar was talking about the incident from one of the earlier episodes. "I finished it today." "Yes, as long as you finish it, you will have the ability to get into the top 3, Oscar said. No, you flatter me." Soda waved his hand. "I'm not flattering you." Oscar turned to face the audience and said, "Now, I can announce a set of data." He returned to the stage. In the past 20 episodes of I Am a Writer, Soda has participated in 16 episodes. At this point, he purposely paused. The audience understood what he meant and responded with cheers and applause. And he holds a record that no one else has ever achieved. And that is... Oscar waved his arm to point at Soda. "In the 1st round, as long as he can finish the essay, he will be in the top 3. The audience clapped again, but Oscar interrupted them. "Furthermore," he said loudly, in the 2nd round, in the genius essay, Soda is the writer who has won the 1st place the most times. Then he finally finished. The audience also burst into the loudest cheers since the start of the match. The other writers also sat in their seats and applauded one after another. Of course, some of them were sincere while others were just putting on a show. "Okay, that's enough. Don't forget about the real business." Fei Rant's voice came through the earpiece again. The moment Oscar heard this, he understood that the director was telling him to stop before he went overboard. After all, the real person he was supposed to praise was Nightfire. Honestly, Oscar personally had his own likes and dislikes for these contestants. He might not have read many novels, but he had interacted with many people. Who was a gentleman, who was a villain, who was a real talent, who was a liar. He had a scale in his heart. From a personal perspective, Oscar really wanted Soda to get into the finals. But due to the needs of the show, he had to compromise. "Okay, now that I've said that, I'm sure the audience can't wait any longer. Let's move on to the next round." Oscar quickly said, "The genius essay." The most troublesome part is here." Fong Buja narrowed his eyes and mumbled, "The consequences of my bullsh ting last time were quite serious. I need to come up with a countermeasure this time." Chapter 592. Please look at the big screen. Oscar continued his sentence and turned around. At the same time, on the big screen next to the stage and the small screens in front of each of the contestants, the following content appeared. Zhang San Li Si Dusk Grassland Victory. As you can see, there are some changes to the rules today. In the past, the requirement for this round was to design an outline based on a narrative and then recount it orally to make it into a relatively complete story, Oscar explained. But today we are providing characters, time, place, and event. When he said this, the cameraman scanned the contestants' expressions one by one. Other than Brother Jew, everyone's expression changed slightly. However, the other rules for this round are the same as usual. Oscar continued. At this moment, the control panel before the seven of us have been switched to free input mode. Be it words, sketches, tables, or doodles, you could do whatever you want. He paused, and the time for this round is still 10 minutes. Then he looked at the contestants' table and said quickly, "Then, the second round begin." Tick-tock, tick-tock. Before Oscar could finish his sentence, the sound of a clock rang in the hall. This was the director's arrangement to create a sense of tension. In this revival round, many similar methods were used to create the atmosphere. This is a stroke of genius. As the most popular segment of the show, it is deeply loved by all of our friends and audience. The commercial break was not over yet, so Oscar had to continue. The performance in this round is crucial. Many contestants were eliminated because of their poor performance in this round. He moved slowly on the stage and made some eye contact with the audience to make his speech more natural. But today, on this revival night stage, only one contestant will advance to the finals. In other words, we will not be eliminating one contestant, but 6. He used an extremely serious tone to state this well-known nonsense again, but did not feel out of place. But if we can take the lead in this round, then it goes without saying it's equivalent to having one foot in the door of the finals. While he was speaking, the timer on the big screen had already run out of 2 minutes. Out of the 7 writers present, 6 of them had already picked up digital pens and were busy on the operating table. Only Fong Bujue supported his cheeks with both hands and raised his head 45 degrees to look at the ceiling. It was unknown whether he was in a daze or acting cute. This kid, what is he up to now? Oscar caught a glimpse of this scene from the corner of his eye and instantly had a bad feeling. Speaking of which, is he giving up on himself? He thought to himself. Or is he trying to play to the gallery? No, he's not that kind of person. Oscar thought about it for a few seconds and quickly rejected these 2 speculations. Based on his personality, I'm afraid the truth is he thought the finals were too troublesome, so he deliberately eliminated himself. After figuring this out, the surprise and doubt in Oscar's heart were swept away. At this moment, he couldn't help but smile because he suddenly thought the scene that was playing out before his eyes was extremely ironic. To some people, they would use any means to obtain something, but to others, it was a burden that they couldn't shake off. 10 minutes passed quickly. During this time, Oscar took a few minutes off the stage to drink some water and touch up his makeup. The 3 minutes of idle chatter on the stage had already filled up the gap outside of the commercial time. The rest could be recorded later. Other than that, the live director, different from the last time when Brother Jew came to participate in the competition, this time, the live director was personally led by Fei Ran. Also had a brief conversation with the audience, telling them what to pay attention to in the upcoming recording. When there were 30 seconds left on the big screen, Oscar walked back onto the stage. "Attention everyone, get ready." Fei Ran greeted through the earpiece. "Welcome back to I Am a Writer, Resurrection Night. I am Oscar." Oscar rested for a few minutes before he recovered. "Thank you for your patience during the commercial time. Let's see, there's still time left for this round." The main camera then cut over to give the big screen a close-up. 21 seconds. Oscar continued. "Are you guys as nervous as I am?" As he spoke, he stepped closer to the contestants' seats. But the most nervous ones are undoubtedly our 7 writers. I wonder how their writing progress is. Then, there was a rather abrupt silence. These 10 seconds would be left to the post-production staff to deal with. When the film was completed, This section of the screen would be divided into several sections. While the countdown would play, the close-ups of the contestants would be constantly switched. Coupled with the impending BGM, it would create the feeling of when the time was up, the television screen would explode. For some reason, this kind of technique had been tried and tested in various variety shows for a long time. Time's up. After the countdown ended, Oscar said directly to the big screen, "Let's cut to the chase. Look at the random numbers." 7 Arabic numbers flashed rapidly on the screen. Several seconds later, it stopped at the number 6. This is also done in secret, isn't it? Phone Bujua mumbled to himself. In this round, it is obvious that the person who announces the outline later will have the advantage because they will have more time to think. And the first person to appear will be the unluckiest. When it is time to give the score, the narration at the back will have already washed away the audience's impression of the first story. His eyes subconsciously turned to Faye Ran. No wonder director Faye is so good at this. I believe the last person to announce the outline will be Nightfire. If it was me, I would have separated Soda's narration from Nightfire's by at least 2 people. If Soda was the second last to appear, it would create a contrast with Nightfire, and the latter would be in trouble. Brother Bujua's mind was racing, and all these thoughts crossed his mind in less than 3 seconds. At that moment, Oscar walked to stand before him. "Bujua, I still remember the last time you came to our show. You won the 2nd place in this round. Even though you were unfortunately eliminated in the end, your mischievous story still left a deep impression on everyone." With the hint from the worker through the earpiece, he reviewed Brother Ju's past performance. "I wonder, what kind of surprise will you give us today?" "Of course it will be a surprise," Phone Bujua replied expressionlessly. "As for joy, then please start." When Oscar said that, there was an obvious pause between start and start because in that second, he saw Brother Ju's panel. The screen was empty, and there was no movement. Once upon a time, there were 2 people. Phone Bujua crossed his fingers and placed his hands under his nose. He made the signature pose of a commander and said coldly, "One of them was Zhang San, and the other was Li Si." The room suddenly became very quiet. All the audience that day, including the fans of the other writers, were anticipating Phone Bujua's performance in Divine Touch because no one knew what kind of story the man would come up with. Phone Bujua's story slowly unfolded. One evening, Zhang San asked Li Si out to have a running race with him. Oscar was startled and thought, running? The location of the race was on a grassy plain. Phone Bujua continued. Li Si was a cripple, and his nickname was Iron Crutchley. Normally, he needed the aid of a crutch to walk. Zhang San, on the other hand, was a sportsman. He was 16 meters tall and had long legs. People gave him the nickname Buluan Zhang. Is it really just a nickname? Oscar really wanted to say something like that, but he could only hold it in. The 2 of them stood side by side, and the arrogant Zhang San told Li Si to get ready to run, Phone Bujua said. So Li Si said, "Get ready. Let's go." Double quotes. "What do you mean by 'let's go'?" Oscar exclaimed internally. Before Li Si finished his sentence, he rushed out. Phone Bujua said. Zhang San was not bothered by his opponent's despicable cheating. He smiled faintly and ran after him. He's not a gentleman to race with a cripple. In less than 10 seconds, Zhang San overtook Li Si and opened up a gap of more than 100 meters. He ran at this speed for a while. When he turned back to look, the limping Li Si had become a tiny black dot on the grassy plain. Brother Bujua said. Zhang San thought, "The finish line is just 5 meters away. I'm sure I'll win, so I might as well lie down and take a nap." "Are you crazy? Why don't you run another 5 meters?" Zhang San lay down on the grassy plain, enjoying the warm evening breeze. After a while, he really closed his eyes and fell asleep. Phone Bujua continued, and Li Si chased and turned. When he reached Zhang San's side, he was already exhausted. If it were me, if I saw Zhang San stand up, I would use my crutch to beat him until he became a cripple. Oscar complained in his heart, and Zhang San was still sleeping. Although Li Si wanted to rest for a while, he knew that Zhang San ran faster than him. He could only win if he persevered. Brother Bujue looked serious. After a fierce struggle, Li Si gritted his teeth and continued to move forward. It's only 5 meters. Struggle my *SS. Can't he just move a few steps in the process of struggle? Finally, Li Si crossed the finish line. Feng Bujue's story was coming to an end. Zhang San woke up and looked back. Why is Li Si gone? He used a tone like he was lecturing a kindergarten child and continued vividly. Oh, it's amazing. Li Si has already crossed the finish line. Zhang San panicked when he saw that, but it's useless for him to chase after him now. Li Si has already won. He shook his head and sighed. This is really thought-provoking. Director, let's call security. Oscar turned his head and switched the microphone to backstage communication mode. There's no need, Fei Ran said. He's already finished. It's too late to chase him out, no? Have security on standby, Oscar said in a low voice. If the audience throws things on the stage or rushes directly at him, we can have security block them for a while. It's okay. Just be careful, Fei Ran said. Think a way to cover it up. Cover my *SS. Oscar cursed at the director in the communication mode. Even kindergarten children can tell that this is a race between the tortoise and the hare. Calm down. You have to calm down, Fei Ran said in a firm tone. Pick something nice to say. If it doesn't work, say a few jokes and change the topic. The part where Oscar held the earpiece and whispered would naturally be edited out later, so he said it for more than 3 minutes. 3 minutes later, Oscar adjusted his emotions and expression and switched the microphone back to the host channel. He smiled, but the smile was as fake as it could be. Bujue, your story, as a whole, is quite educational. Tisk, the audience booed in an instant. This time, the whole audience was booing Brother Bujue. Some of his fans had already left the stage angrily, and the rest had basically turned from fans to haters. They tossed away their banners and joined the booing party. Of course, this is a modified version of the race between the tortoise and the hare. Feng Bujue laughed shamelessly and replied calmly. Suddenly, Nightfire, who sat at the 7th seat next to him, shouted loudly, "Don't cross the line." This was the first time that this had happened. In the history of I Am a Writer, there had never been a scene where 2 contestants had gotten into an altercation on the spot. Oscar had great control over the situation. Normally, he, as the host, had the final say on who, when, and what to say. But now, an unexpected situation had occurred. Everyone, pay attention. Don't stop, continue recording. Fei Ran's excited voice echoed in the worker's earpiece. It looked like the director was happy to see this. No matter what your purpose is, please do not use this kind of attitude to tarnish this sacred stage. Nightfire glared at Brother Ju sternly. Feng Bujue turned around and looked at Nightfire with a sarcastic smile. Is this stage sacred? Before he finished, Brother Ju suddenly stood up. Near the stage, the security guards outside of the camera were sweating. They thought to themselves, no way. Do we really have to go on stage? Feng Bujue took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Nightfire's 7th seat. He placed his hands on the console and put his face in front of Nightfire, staring at him intently. Nightfire was at a loss of what to do when faced with Brother Ju's actions. He had wanted to gain some popularity with what he had just said, and at the same time, he wanted to stab the guy next to him, who was ranked 2nd in the online poll. It was the strategy of hitting a man when he is down and respecting himself, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Unexpectedly, Feng Bujue left his seat and walked over. Looking at his posture, was he going to fight? Nightfire was around 30 years old this year. He was dressed very well and was even wearing a slim-fit suit. However, it still couldn't hide his slightly chubby body. On the other hand, Feng Bujue, although he looked thin, he had been training regularly recently. His body was very strong and well-defined. With the advantage of height, he would not be at a disadvantage in a fight. Hey, what are you doing? If you really beat up Nightfire, you won't just be dragged out by the security guards. They might sue you. Oscar thought to himself, if this stage is sacred. Feng Bujue looked straight into his eyes and said in a low voice, Then why are you here? What do you mean by that? Nightfire was enraged, as if his hair was standing on end. This was because he heard another layer of meaning from Brother Jew's words. Nightfire knew very well that his revival round's first place in the popularity poll was achieved through under-the-table manipulation. To put it more bluntly, he paid for it. Just like some web novelists who spent money to promote their results on the website, Nightfire did the same thing to push himself to first place in the popularity poll. Other than that, he used his connections to put pressure on the TV station's management to pave the way for him to enter the finals. When Fong Bujua used his so-called sacred speech to mock him, naturally, Nightfire was angered. It's nothing, just a casual remark. If you don't like it, I'll say something else. Fong Bujua suddenly smiled and turned around to return his seat. The audience was stunned, and they did not know how to react. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Oscar quickly said, "Ha, Bujua still loves to joke." He tried to use laughter to diffuse this scary atmosphere. The next step was to change the topic. By the way, Bujua's work this time has some highlights, or at least some points to complain about. What do you mean? Fong Bujua was trying to undermine himself. I told you, the story was modified from the tortoise and the hare. Even if there are highlights, I'm just a high-level plagiarist. Oscar really did not know how to continue the conversation. He sighed and ignored the effect of the scene. After all, it did not matter anymore. He would leave the mess for the post-production to deal with. He said directly, "Bujua, to be honest, I am quite shocked. Your performance today, what is the meaning of that?" When the show is over, you'll understand." Fong Bujua placed his hands behind his head again and replied in a relaxed tone, "But now, just treat it as if I was not on my usual level." "Humph. You make it sound like you'll be that good if you perform normally." Nightfire scoffed. Fong Bujua did not mind that. He did not even look at Nightfire and said with a smile, "You can call me arrogant, but I don't expect anyone to understand me." Chapter 593. After the little interlude between Fong Bujua and Nightfire, Oscar chatted for a bit before forcefully changing the topic and forcing the show to continue. Therefore, based on the number that appeared on the screen, each contestant gave their own outline. Unsurprisingly, the second person to go on stage was Soda. The director had indeed placed him far enough away from Nightfire, and he was the second to go on stage. He had really put a lot of thought into this. However, Soda's story was still interesting. He developed a plot about the love of the martial world, and it was quite touching. The third one to appear was Uncle Earth. The story he designed was a rare social theme, implying real problems such as the destruction of the ecological environment. This kind of theme was difficult to arouse people's interest. Coupled with the slightly long synopsis, it made the audience want to doze off. Even though his intention and courage to create this kind of story was admirable, there was no doubt it would be difficult for him to get a high score. The fourth contestant was the Bandit General, and the outline he came up with was also a wuxia story. But, as the saying went, it was better not to be ignorant than to be compared. He had the same plot as Soda, so he could only blame himself for being unlucky. Rose was the fifth contestant, and she wrote a fanfiction. The time was from dusk to night, and the process was filled with sickness, but the ending was suicide. After hearing this, the audience's reaction was polarized. Oscar found it hard to complain, so he just said a few words and jumped to the next contestant. Yamcha was the second to last contestant. When his number appeared on the screen, Brother Jew's speculation was confirmed. Nightfire was indeed the last contestant, and the two contestants who narrated before him, the quality of their outlines did not pose any threat to him. But something unexpected still happened. Perhaps due to the conflict with Brother Jew, Nightfire's emotions were obviously affected, and it caused his performance to be abnormal. Even though Nightfire's ability was not that good, he was at least better than those who were not that good. If he did not have this standard, then he would not have become so popular. Unfortunately, his performance was so terrible that even his fans found it hard to be satisfied with his story. Without waiting for the score, Nightfire knew he had lost this round. Moreover, He had lost a good game when he had all kinds of advantageous conditions, which made him feel even more resentful. Okay, the 7 contestants have finished their narrations, so let us enter the intense scoring stage. After Nightfire's answer was announced, Oscar said a few words and then continued. I have to explain. The scoring criteria for this round stroke of genius will be different from the previous rounds. He paused for a second. No one said that you have to use that name in the future. Oh, is that so? Yamacha hesitated for a few seconds. Then I'll call him Ah-chong. Hey, that's too perfunctory. It was time for Oscar to complain. Is this even your own son? Laughter came from the audience, and the DJ also inserted a cheesy, funny sound effect at the right time. Let's ask Brother Earth. Oscar walked to the 3rd seat. However, before he could get close, Uncle Earth said, Our son is already in junior high school. Don't cause trouble for him. Oscar froze and made a face at the camera. The audience burst into laughter again. Well then, Oscar walked to the 4th seat. Rose, as the only female contestant in the game, I think everyone must be looking forward to your answer. Rose did not answer immediately. She silently lit another cigarette for herself, raised her head slightly, and moved her bangs away from her forehead. After a short silence, she said, Phew. Edward Antonio Mason Cullen. Ha! Ha ha! Oscar's mouth twitched. Isn't that, yes, that's a vampire's name, Rose interrupted. Do you have a problem with that? No, absolutely not. Oscar really did not want to argue with this lady about Twilight. Otherwise, the security guards would really have to step in. Let's hear Bandit General's answer again. Oscar ran to the 5th contestant's seat and said, Bandit General, the characters in your work all have very catchy names. I wonder, what kind of good name do you plan to give to your child in the future? My son. Let's have a single name, Faye, Bandit General replied. Oh, spreading his wings and soaring to the sky. That is indeed a good name. Oscar quickly praised. He was quite helpless. Of the top 4 contestants, 2 of them passed, and the other 2 were full of flaws. He really cannot praise them even if he wanted to. Actually, Bandit General explained, let me think about it for a while. I should be able to come up with a better name. This question is indeed difficult to answer, Oscar said. Oscar said, but this is the revival round. We have to pick a difficult question and launch a surprise attack. Ha! His smile had already vanished as he walked from the contestant number 5 seat to the contestant number 6 seat. In just a few short steps, in just a few seconds, Oscar became highly focused. Bujua, your answer is... Oscar asked nervously. Feng Bujua pondered. When you walked over, already thought of several names, oh? Oscar's expression relaxed. If it's possible, please tell me all of them. Oh, Brother Ju answered. You just opened your mouth and came up with names like Shinichi, Tohai, Gohan, Ryoma, Shao. This guy's completely lost his mind. Oscar thought. Even during the question and answer session, he wants to draw hatred. His son's name has to be taken from somewhere else. Even a random name like Yong or Ping would be more sincere than this. TSK. The boos from the audience came again, like a tsunami. This was something that had never happened in a question and answer session before. I'm sorry. Suddenly, Feng Bujua interrupted his nonsense and apologized. At that moment, everyone thought that he was going to say, I was just joking, and then come up with a proper name. But, I'm sorry, my phone vibrated. I think there's a message. Let me take a look, Brother Ju said as he took out his phone from the back pocket of his pants. He touched the screen and looked at the message. 3 seconds later, he snorted. Then, a subtle smile appeared on his face. He shook his head gently and put his phone away. Of course, no one knew that Feng Bujua had received a message from Li Ruoyu. The content was, That's horrible. Ha! I'm sorry, Brother Ju said calmly. I forgot to close it. Cut this out. Due to the dissatisfaction of the audience, after Nightfire finished answering the questions, Fei Ran paused the recording of the show and announced a 15-minute break. During this break, Nightfire was invited to the side by Faye Rand to discuss some under-the-table manipulations. Director Faye was a clever man. He knew that if he continued to keep Nightfire at the contestant area, he would definitely get into an argument with Fong Bujue. After all, Nightfire was not that popular, so Director Faye decided to bring him over to his side. At the contestant area, the remaining 6 contestants gathered at Brother Ju's side to chat. Bujue, I think I know what you're doing now. The bandit general sat at his seat and told Brother Ju, who was next to him, I thought you were a rather arrogant person, but I didn't expect you to be this arrogant. You plan to use this method to mess up the situation and have Nightfire die with you, right? Huh? Fong Bujue laughed, but did not say anything. Bujue is not that kind of person, Soda said to the general. I must have a reason for doing this. Fufu. Rose blew out a puff of smoke and told Brother Ju, I am quite envious of you. She looked at Brother Ju with a sense of superiority. Actually, I also think the show is quite boring, but the fans kept begging me to come, so I had no choice. She took another puff. Sigh, what a pity. My fans aren't like yours. Even if I do what you did just now, they won't leave. Miss, if you really want to reduce the number of your fans, I can provide you with a very simple method. Fong Bujue turned around and raised 3 fingers. This method only requires 3 steps, which are 1. Open your social media account and log into your homepage. 2. Remove your makeup. And 3. Upload your picture. After that, he put down his hand and shrugged. I call this method the 3 consecutive attacks to lose fans. Fufu, do you believe that I'll write you into my next book and kill you? Rose narrowed her eyes and replied in an annoyed tone. Uncle Earth laughed. Bujue, don't be too mean when you talk to a girl, or you'll be despised. He paused. By the way, I see you're around 24 this year, right? Do you have a girlfriend? I have a distant relative. Yes. Fong Bujue quickly stopped Uncle Earth. Brother Ju's landlord, Annie Liu, had told him similar topics many times, and he did not want to listen to this. Brother Ju, can you give me your autograph? Yamucha found a pen and paper from who knew where and handed them to Fong Bujue. I'm your fan. Okay. Fong Bujue accepted the pen and paper with a smile. Just an autograph? If you can write a few words for me, that would be even better, Yamucha replied. Oh. Fong Bujue thought about it for a few seconds and raised his head to look at Yamucha. You're not even 20 this year, right? Yes, I'm 19. Yamucha nodded. In the future, do you plan to write books full-time? Brother Ju asked. Yes. A serious expression appeared on Yamucha's young face. I will keep writing, and I'll follow the example of all the seniors. Fong Bujue, on the other hand, was calm. When he heard this, he started to write. In the future, you will encounter many difficulties, many temptations, and many choices. Fong Bujue said as he wrote, when you're lost, remember to turn back and think about the heart that drove you to move forward. As he spoke, he finished writing. Yamucha accepted the paper that Brother Ju handed back. Other than the autograph, there was a lyric. When you've tasted the warmth and coldness of human nature, when you've decided to burn for your dream, ask yourself, which is more important, the pressure of life or the dignity of life? In all fairness, this was indeed the most difficult round. The previous, turning writing into chapters, tested one's writing skills. The divine pen tested one's creativity. And this third round tested far more than just those 2 skills. In limited time, the writers had to read, understand, think, write quickly, and write well. The key was the style of writing had to be similar to the original authors. Finishing someone else's essay was perhaps the most difficult thing to do. Not to mention the extreme example of Dream of the Red Chamber. Who would have the confidence to finish a novel with mediocre writing and average creativity? If the original author couldn't finish it, it would be harder to finish it without leaving a trace, as if it was the original work. Therefore, we have to be tolerant of works like Dragon Ball GT. Seems to be off topic. Back to the topic. The scoring criteria will be the same as before. The finishing touch will account for 40% of the total score, and the previous 2 rounds added up to 60%. Oscar finished explaining the rules and then explained the scoring criteria. In this round, the audience can still only vote for the first round, not the second round. Naturally, our expert panel will also participate in this round of judging. Their opinions will account for 1/3 of the total score, and the remaining 2/3. He faced the audience and said solemnly, "Will depend on your choice." Following that, Oscar said some standard lines. He would say these lines in almost every episode of the show, such as the grading standards of the judges, their professionalism, and the hard work they had put in to organize the general outlines of the books. The audience also responded with applause. While he was talking, several staff members came up to the stage under the cover of darkness and handed 7 envelopes to the 7 writers. A few minutes later, Oscar finished saying what he needed to say and finally announced, "Okay, I think everyone is getting impatient from waiting, so I won't be long-winded. The third round, finishing touch. Now." He habitually paused for 2 seconds before saying, "Begin." As soon as he finished speaking, a countdown appeared on the big screen. The duration was 89:59. At the same time, on the voting screen in front of the audience, an operable window appeared. Inside, the audience could see which novels the 7 contestants had drawn, as well as the corresponding outlines. This was a new policy that the show had implemented a few episodes ago. Many of the audience members had complained that the 1.5-hour wait was too long, and they felt that there was nothing to do. In the previous shows, the 7 writers' titles were displayed one by one on the big screen, but that had proven to be ineffective. So, they had changed it to this. The live audience members could browse the novels and read the outlines on their own during the 90 minutes. That way, they could share the information with the writers and kill some time. 10 minutes after the start of the third round, backstage, in a lounge of Fong Bujue's family and friends. Due to the needs of the show, the contestants had to be in a special lounge to be filmed and interviewed alone. Therefore, the show had arranged a lounge for each contestant's entourage, assistant, bodyguard, driver, family, and friends. Dong dong. Fong Bujue knocked twice on the door. No one answered, but someone opened the door. And Yuechin seemed to know that it was Brother Ju even before she opened the door. She scolded him. "Why did you sneak out instead of focusing on the competition? What's the rush? I'll go back in the last 20 minutes. Fong Bujue shrugged and replied, "If I knew you were going to mess around like this." Ruoyu's voice came from behind in Yuechin. "I wouldn't have come." There were only 2 people in Fong Bujue's family and friends lounge. Using the excuse of "I have decided to return the favor," Ruoyu drove Brother Ju to the TV station, and then she refused to leave. And Yuechin, on the other hand, was on official business. After all, she was Brother Ju's editor. After seeing Fong Bujue's performance in the last round, she felt that it would be inappropriate if she didn't come here. The 2 of them had been watching the live broadcast on the time-controlled TV in the lounge. Just now, Brother Ju had left his seat and walked backstage, so they naturally saw it. Hey, don't go back alone." Fong Bujue tilted his head and said to Ruoyu, who was sitting on the sofa across from Yuechin, "You suddenly drove over to pick me up today, so I left in a hurry and forgot to bring my transportation card and wallet. Is this the time to worry about that?" And Yuechin also tilted her head and blocked Brother Ju's line of sight. "You are our magazine's specially invited writer. Have you thought about the chain reaction caused by your performance in this episode?" Fong Bujue didn't answer directly. He first looked around to make sure that he wasn't being followed by the cameraman. He then walked into the room and closed the door behind him. Finally, he lowered his voice and replied, "What are you yelling about? I know what I'm doing." "What do you know?" And Yuechin said in a slightly annoyed tone, "Do you think I don't know? You knew that Nightfire was going to make it to the finals, so you wanted to mess with him, right?" As she spoke, she returned to the sofa and sat down next to Ruoyu. "Huh, do I look like someone who has nothing better to do?" Fong Bujue spread out his hands and replied with an innocent look on his face. "Of course you do," the 2 on the sofa said in unison. The 2 of you have only known each other for a few hours, but I didn't expect you to be in cahoots with each other and target me." Fong Bujue made a strange expression and took half a step back. Ruo, you raised your phone. We have already exchanged email addresses, and Yuechin also raised her phone. And some information about you. Both of them looked very calm, but their auras were as deep as the abyss, and their intentions were obvious. Fong Bujue instantly had a very bad premonition. As long as you let me live, we can still be good friends. Brother Ju replied seriously. Sai, okay, stop talking nonsense. I know you must have some plan. Ruoyu sighed. But you better not go too far. If you can't restore your image and popularity by the end of the show, and Yuechin added, then I can't help you. Wash your neck and wait for our editor-in-chief and higher-ups to come looking for you. Don't worry. Fong Bujue leisurely came to the sofa on the other side of the room and sat down. He looked at the TV screen on the wall. I will give everyone a satisfactory answer. When there were only 20 minutes left for the finishing touch, Fong Bujue strolled back from a lounge. During this time, he had basically spent his time playing with his phone and chatting. Everyone else was reading and writing furiously. To be honest, everyone present had already given up on the idea of making him cooperate with the recording. So when he said to the director that he was going backstage to take a break, Fei Ran did not stop him at all. Yo, Oscar, the audience interaction segment is finished. After Fong Bujue returned to the stage, he did not return to his seat. Instead, he ran to the side of the stage and chatted with Oscar, who was touching up his makeup. Yeah, even the advertising message and a few post-production monologues are recorded. Oscar sat still under the influence of a stylist. He did not dare to move at all. He could not even take a sip of water. Where did you go? I chatted with 2 friends for a while and took a break. Fong Bujue said, it's too hot on the stage. The lights. He leaned forward and looked at Oscar up close. I say, with the makeup on your face, it could be used as a mask under the lights for a while, right? That's right, Oscar replied. Sigh, that's what we do. He paused. By the way, Bujue, even if you don't care about the result, it's not so good for you to be like this. His expression shifted. Last time you came, you used the excuse of I don't like the book and did not write a single word in the 3rd round. This time, you didn't even read it. I've already read it. Fong Bujue interrupted him. There's no need to read it again. Oscar was startled. Fong Bujue instantly explained with a smile. It's like this. I read the novel that I got a long time ago. 1 hour ago, I spent 10 minutes to remember the content of the book through the outline and came up with a final chapter. He shrugged. Based on my estimation, I can finish this chapter in 15 minutes. So, I decided to go backstage to take a breather and organize my thoughts before coming back to finish it. Oscar also laughed. That does sound like your style. For those who don't know me, they'll think I'm being very arrogant, Fong Bujue said. Of course, who knows what you're doing? Oscar replied. Oh, by the way, I'm here because I have a favor to ask of you. Fong Bujue then added, after the recording here is done, can you give me the voiceover interview first? He paused for a second before adding, because I wish to go back as soon as possible. Oh, it's nothing, Oscar said. I'll inform the director in a bit. That's great. Thank you, Fong Bujue said politely. Then, I'll be going back to my seat. Hurry up and go. Be careful, Oscar said. Brother Bujue smiled and turned to leave. Oscar looked at his back and thought, one moment he's so aggressive, and the next he's so friendly. I really can't read you. Welcome back to I Am a Writer, Resurrection Night. After the countdown ended, Oscar returned to the stage and started to perform before the camera. Let's skip the small talk and welcome the unveiling of the finishing touch. He quickly walked to contestant number 1's seat and said, based on tradition, we will start with contestant number 1. The rest of the announcement was done step by step. The contestants' chapters appeared on the big screen one by one, and next to them was the outline of the work that was being continued. Along the way, Oscar joked, and, at the same time, he gave his compliments. He was indeed a master at creating the atmosphere. At the climax of the show, there was not even a minute of silence. And the articles written by the writers were indeed of a high standard. Of course, compared to the standard of I am a writer, feel free to criticize, it was still a little lacking. After all, this was the resurrection contest. In terms of the writer's ability, they were naturally not as good as that episode's lineup. About 20 minutes later, Oscar finally arrived at Fong Bujue's seat for contestant number 6. Then, let us take a look at contestant Bujue's performance in this round. When Oscar said that the content that Brother Ju wrote in 15 minutes appeared on the big screen. Our main character has died, just like that. That was the first sentence of Fong Bujue's final chapter. After many people saw that, they wanted to curse because they had a hard time imagining what the rest of the chapter would be about. But actually, this was not Brother Ju's fault. The book that he continued to write was, in essence, a lousy work. In the previous chapter, the original author had indeed written the main character to death. Even though the author's writing was not bad, and it made the main character's death quite tragic and touching, it could not hide the fact that it was a sudden death. After he finished the part where the main character died, he abruptly ended the chapter and stopped writing. It had to be said that the envelope that Fong Bujue randomly received was indeed scary. The novels that the others drew either had lukewarm plots and were only halfway developed, or had such a huge plot that the original author couldn't control it after writing it for a while. Only his novel, the author didn't forget to stab the main character in the back before he dropped it. Technically speaking, this could not be considered an unfinished novel anymore. It was a half-finished and half-unfinished novel that did not have any chapters. However, Fong Bujue still managed to finish a decent chapter in 20 minutes. As the main character of a novel, he sure is sad. In fact, it makes me want to laugh. He still has so many things that he has not done, so many dreams that he has not realized, but he has ended it just like that. At this point, the audience still had a suspicious attitude. They had no idea what was going to happen next. But perhaps this is his fate. Along the way, he has brought us many smiles and tears. His success has made us happy, and his failure has made us pity. His courage has made us admire him, and his cowardice has made us introspect. He struggles in pain and grows in adversity. He swings like a clown, moans like a patient, thinks like a saint, and is greedy like a beast. He is noble, yet unbearable, smart, yet stupid, single-minded, yet affectionate. He lives like a madman who contradicts himself just to make us laugh. But when we peel off the surface and look again, he is just a person who lives in our imaginary world. The meaning of his existence is just for our amusement. One day, we will forget him just like we have forgotten many other characters. Death is not his ending. His ending is no different from the other main characters. He will be forgotten. At this point, there was a paragraph break. Do you know about salmon? When they were still fish, eggs, humans, and some big birds turned them into a delicious meal. Those that were lucky enough to survive drifted and grew in the ocean. When they matured, they would migrate upstream, trekking thousands of kilometers to return to the water where they were born. They crossed waterfalls and dams, jumping and advancing against the current. They escaped the claws of predators and crossed the endless current. They were wounded, but they moved forward bravely. After many difficulties, they finally arrived at the calm lake, where their mother laid her eggs. Then, they used the last of their energy to give birth to their offspring and end their lives. It was a short and difficult life that was full of hardships. Their corpses would become food for other animals, and their remains would become nutrients for trees. And their offspring would follow in the footsteps of their parents and complete their life's mission. They knew that the end result was death, but they still followed this journey. Just like the main characters of countless novels, they came and went, playing out scenes of ups and downs in front of us. But in the end, they would still be like the salmon. In just a few years, they had finished this short life. To them, this period of time before our eyes is all they have. The death of the characters was not the end. The end of the story was their rest. So, although our main character still has a lot of things to do and a lot of dreams to achieve, as long as we remember him and remember the feelings he once brought to us, he did not live in vain. Even in the face of death, he would not hesitate and die without regrets. Chapter 595. After Fong Bujue's essay was revealed, the room fell silent. Perhaps the audience was hesitating. Should they give this man who had been messing around the whole time a round of applause? In a way, Brother Ju's sudden seriousness during the last round made the audience feel even more annoyed. If he had been messing around all the way, it would have been fine. But with his reaction, it was as if he was saying, "I'm sorry, I was just messing with you earlier." Even Oscar, who had a lot of experience in hosting, did not know how to react. Thankfully, he did not need to read the whole essay out loud for this round, and he was looking at the big screen with the audience. Therefore, he could speak whenever he wanted. He did not need to rush to speak at a specific time. I believe everyone has seen contestant Bujue's answer. Several minutes later, Oscar got the director's order through the communicator. He had a grasp of the situation, and he said, "Air, Bujue. To be honest, if you had shown such a performance in the first 2 rounds, you probably wouldn't have fallen behind, right?" "Humph," Fong Bujue scoffed. "I don't think so." Oscar seemed to have realized something and did not continue the conversation. He merely turned to face the camera and shrugged. Then he walked to the booth for contestant number 7. "Then, let us see today's finale." He waved his arm to signal at the big screen. "Together, we will reveal the final chapter written by Nightfire." The next second, Nightfire's masterpiece that he had spent 1.5 hours writing was displayed on the screen. In this round, his performance was indeed very good. Since Fong Bujue had temporarily left the stage, Nightfire's emotions had calmed down quite a bit. Without any distractions, he wrote a high-quality ending. Of course, that had something to do with a novel that he had randomly picked up. The behind-the-scenes team had specially chosen an urban novel that had a similar style to Nightfire's, but was slightly inferior to his. Furthermore, the author of this novel had not dug too many holes, and the structure of the story was relatively small. In short, in this round, the production team had provided various factors to reduce the difficulty of Nightfire's writing. Based on Fei Rant's original words, "Director, I can only help you up to this point." Wow, Nightfire is truly extraordinary. Not long after, Oscar commented loudly, "After reading this article, I think the suspense of the champion of Resurrection Night is getting smaller and smaller." Before the result was announced, he had already made a very suggestive remark. Immediately after, Nightfire's fans led the crowd in cheering. The director followed suit and directed the audience to applaud and cheer. Coupled with the DJ's timely insertion of epic BGM, it successfully created an extremely enthusiastic atmosphere. After the hubbub, Oscar wiped the sweat off his forehead and sighed softly. His answer was quite clever, and he even added some words to please the audience. "Yes, I wish you the best on the road of literature." Oscar praised him again before turning to his brother Bujue. "Bujue, are you satisfied with Nightfire's answer?" "You did not answer the question." "What a load of nonsense," Fong Bujue replied expressionlessly. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room dropped to freezing point. Even the workers' brains had short-circuited, much less the audience. Oscar showed an unprecedented expression of shock and helplessness before the camera. "What's wrong?" Fong Bujue looked at the stunned Oscar. "Continue. It's Yamucha's turn next. Quick, before Nightfire starts an argument with him, we need to move." Fei Rant's urgent voice came through Oscar's earpiece. Oscar followed the order and slid to the second seat. He adjusted his expression quickly and said, "Okay. Next, Yamucha. Who do you want to ask?" "Air." Yamucha's eyes were still glued to Fong Bujue, so he said without turning his head, "I wish to ask Brother Ju." He turned his head slightly to the side and said into the microphone, "I noticed earlier in a very popular online game recently, there's a famous player. His ID is similar to your pen name, and he also looks, I have no comment." Fong Bujue cut him off and said in a tone like he was educating a child, "Also, young people shouldn't be addicted to games. Focus on your book." "Oh, okay." Yamucha's lips twitched, and he gave up on the spot. Brother Earth, is more reliable. Hurry up and find Brother Earth. Fearon shouted a few more times in the comms channel. Oscar had no idea what to do now. He would just follow whatever the director said. He did not even reply to Yamucha. He turned to Uncle Earth and said, "Brother Earth, it's your turn." "Oh, I want to ask." "Soda." Uncle Earth was indeed reliable. After all, he was middle-aged and was good at reading people's body language. He would leave himself some leeway. Therefore, he chose to cooperate with the host to divert everyone's attention. Therefore, Uncle Earth asked Soda an unimportant question, and Soda gave a short and appropriate answer. Then, when it was Soda's turn to ask a question, he asked Uncle Earth a similar question. With the combined effort of these two, the audience's attention finally moved away from Phone Bujua and Nightfire, and the atmosphere became more normal. After that, Goth Rose refused to answer any questions. She said that if someone asked her a question, she would refuse to answer. Then, it was Bandit General's turn. "I also want to ask, Nightfire." Bandit General turned around with a smile and asked Nightfire, "Did you enjoy today's competition?" Other than Nightfire, Bandit General was obviously the one who cared the most about this revival competition. At the start of the competition, he used his words to mock Nightfire's cheating. But that was it. So when I saw my fans in the audience booing me, I was so happy. Oscar was silent for a few seconds and looked at Brother Jew with admiration. Then he moved the progress bar on the tablet. "In the third round, your performance was outstanding, and you used less than half an hour." He paused. "So, this is your real ability? If you think so, then so be it." Phone Bujua smiled. Then, Oscar looked at the script and raised his hand to signal the workers behind him. The sound collector and cameraman immediately understood and stopped filming. Then Oscar changed his tone to tell Brother Jew, "According to the rules, all the contestants who participated in the revival contest today have to say something to the successful writer." "Bujua, what do you think? I have an idea." At that moment, Fei Ran, who sat in the corner of the room, suddenly interrupted. "Bujua, let's discuss this." Phone Bujua glanced at her from the corner of his eyes and replied, "Director, your resentment toward Nightfire sure runs deep. I've already helped you so much. What more do you want from me?" Seeing this, I believe everyone understands the situation. That's right, the person who was really annoyed by Nightfire was the main director, Fei Ran. Before the pre-competition mobilization, Fei Ran had already come to an agreement with Phone Bujua. These two treacherous fellows had secretly conspired to direct today's drama, and Nightfire, who had a guilty conscience, could only gloomily accept it. The evening of the 8th of June, Phone Bujua's home. Brother Jew looked at the group of people in the living room and said in a helpless tone, "You bunch of people, don't you need to go to work tomorrow?" At that moment, Li Ruoyu, Wang Tanji, Gu Xiaoling, and Yue Qin, Bao Qing, the landlord, Annie Lu. The group of people were all sitting before the screen in his home theater, watching the unedited version of I Am a Writer, Revival Night that he had brought back from the television station. "It's rare for your house to have guests. You should be happy." Ouyang Ruo held an apple and walked over from the kitchen. She stood next to Brother Jew and said, "By the way, why are there underwear in your fridge?" Phone Bujua slowly turned around to glare at the litigation stick. "None of you really treat yourselves as outsiders." He snatched the apple from Ouyang Ruo's hand. "I haven't asked you yet. Why are you here to join the fun?" "I call him on the way here." And Yue Qin, who sat not far away, raised her head to say. Ouyang Ruo added, "In other words, I, the professional, am here to see whether your actions in this episode will be enough to warrant a lawsuit." As he said that, he snatched the apple back from Brother Jew's hand. "If there's a problem, at least I'll be prepared. You're just here to watch the show, and yet you make it sound so reasonable." Phone Bujua narrowed his eyes. "I've already colluded with the main director. How could there be any evidence left in the official broadcast?" "Chill. Stop talking, it's starting," Xiao Tan said excitedly. Before he finished, the first scene of his show appeared on the television screen. 1 hour later, the official footage of the competition had finished, and the video entered the backstage interview phase. The video of Oscar talking to Brother Jew and him interviewing other writers alternated on the screen. Bujue, before you leave this stage, can you say a few words to Nightfire, who has entered the finals? Oscar asked with a smile. Sure. The camera cut to phone Bujue. He used a listless expression and dragged out his reply. Oh, by the way, according to our backstage statistics, you've used many songs written or composed by Mr. Lee Zongxing today, Oscar said. How about, as he said that, he passed the tablet in his hand to phone Bujue. How about you leave a message in the form of lyrics? Ha ha ha. Phone Bujue used a flat voice and laughed drily. That's exactly what I want. Then, as if he had prepared this beforehand, he wrote quickly on the tablet. What can you do about life if you can't get what you want? You can't bear to give up what you should, and you only care about worldly affairs. When you realize that compromise is a thief, it will have stolen all your choices. Fame and fortune are just a high fever, and regret follows closely behind. Cough. I can forgive, but I can't stop. Feeling sad alone at night. You're young and frivolous, but you pretend to be old. Who gave you the courage to pretend? Abandoning your dream is like a slap. Whenever you remember a sentence, you'll get a slap. Then you'll start to reflect and hate yourself for being dirty. Chapter 596. June 12th, 7 p.m. Another pile of mail. After phone Bujue arrived at the login lobby, the first thing he did was check his mailbox. He looked at the page number at the bottom of the mailbox and smiled. Thankfully, compared to before, the number of mail is so low that it is comforting. For Brother Jew, to have only a few hundred mail in his mailbox after being online for so many days, that was something worth celebrating. This also meant that the popularity of the tournament for the best was fading, and the players' attention had moved away from him. Of course, there was another reason for this, and that was, after the revision, the overall player power ranking had removed the anonymous setting and changed it to not displayed on the ranking. In that way, the number of ways for new players to find out about phone Bujue's ID was greatly reduced. Speaking of which, one had to criticize the previous ranking. The original, anonymous setting was quite useless. After intersecting the information network of the major studios, it was not that hard to figure out who the anonymous player was. As a result, the situation was often, when the masses who didn't know the truth saw a certain anonymous player, they would think of ways to find out who that person was. In the end, after searching on the internet, they would find out, oh, it turned out to be so-and-so. But now, the situation was different. There were no anonymous players on the ranking anymore. The players were either on the ranking or not. Those who were not on the ranking could be hiding, or they could be too weak, or they could have deleted their accounts. After some time, no one would purposely go and find out more about them, at least not the casual players. Other than that, there was something else worth mentioning. The new rankings confidentiality setting made the implementation of the secret weapon tactic possible. Theoretically speaking, those powerful studios could, from now on, train one or more powerful players in the dark. They would not be allowed to participate in the killing game, and they would be teamed up with the people from their own studio in all team mode. This way, during the tournament for the best S2, this group of people would become a surprise force. In fact, some studios had already started to do that, but the appearance of this group of people was a story for later. Back to Brother Jew. In order to prepare for the submission of the manuscript in the middle of June, he had been working behind closed doors at home for the past few days. During the day, he gulped down coffee and wrote with all his might. At night, he went to bed on time and refused to play games. After 4 days, he finally completed 90% of his workload. The remaining 10% could be completed in 5 to 6 hours in the next 2 days. Therefore, after Brother Jew finished his dinner and washed the dishes, he entered the gaming hub and logged into Thriller Paradise. Okay, easy. Phone Bujue spent less than 10 minutes to finish the email. He then opened the social menu to see if the members of the Underworld Frontline were online. In the end, he made an unexpected discovery. Who was Flower on the Stone? Brother Jew noticed at first glance that there was one more person in the club. Although this person was currently offline, his ID was clearly displayed in the club member list. No way. After thinking about it for a few seconds, Fong Bujue's expression shifted. It looked like he already had the answer. Dancing with the moon on the stone, kneeling with the flower on the stone. After this, my heart is not in my heart. He mumbled. Your memory is not bad. After figuring out the new member's identity, Brother Ju felt a chill run down his spine. He immediately connected the dots. The person who pulled Miss Sin into the club was no doubt Ruoyu. Currently, there were only 2 members in the club who had the authority to recruit and expel members. One was Fong Bujue himself, and the other was Ruoyu. To put it simply, one was the leader, and the other was the political commissar. Of the remaining 2, Xiao Ling did not want the authority. 1, she thought it was too troublesome, and 2, she could always ask her cousin for help. As for Xiao Tan, even if he asked for the authority, Brother Ju would not give it to him. If he had to ask why, Brother Ju would have used some weird reason like "you are the bottom" to give him a domineering answer. These 2 girls. Fong Bujue paced back and forth in the elevator alone. He mumbled to himself. Their relationship sure is developing fast. This kind of atmosphere of regret for not having met earlier. This is not a good sign. He hesitated for a while, but he could not come up with a solution. It looked like it was inevitable that he would be monitored by his boss. Thankfully, he had not been online for the past few days. He appeared to be working hard and had no time to play games. Even if he ran into his boss that day, he could confidently say, "I've already finished the draft." Sigh, how come I feel like a primary school student? The subtext seems to be, I have finished my homework, so I can play now, right? With that in mind, Fong Bujue could not help but think to himself, after some time, I will enter the rebellious phase and turn into leave me alone, or else I'll die in front of you. Brother Ju shook his head and chased the messy thoughts out of his mind. TSK, I don't care. A literary giant knows when to bow and submit. He mumbled to himself as he walked into the storage room. How did Han Xian get here? How did Go Jian get here? How did Sunbin get here? Sima Qian? Forget about that. He walked to the storage box. In any case, I'll just take it one step at a time. As he spoke, he took out all his puzzle cards from the storage box. There were a total of 7 puzzle cards: strawberry, banana, toilet bowl, ping pong, father, spider, and countdown. Then, he went to the login lobby and entered the market. Fong Bujue's target was none other than the puzzle card trading house. The trading house was located at the corner of the market. It was embedded at the edge of the large dome. Its overall shape was like a broken sphere. After walking through the front door, he could see several rows of counters and many players shuttling between the counters. No matter how he looked at it, the interior of the trading house looked like an arcade. What is this? Are they all playing slot machines? Fong Bujue grumbled as he continued to move forward. After the update, this was the first time he had been to this place. After 10 days, most of the players had familiarized themselves with how to use this new facility, but Brother Ju was probably one of the few country bumpkins. Brother Fong. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. Fong Bujue turned his head and looked at the newcomer. Oh, it's Child Jian. Long time no see. I heard from Blade Runner that I might run into you in Area 101. Child Jian said as he walked toward Brother Ju. Who would have thought we'd actually run into each other today? If you need anything from me, you could have just contacted me or sent me a message. Fong Bujue was right. They had already added each other as friends. Actually, I don't have anything that I need to talk to you about. Child Jian laughed. Oh, right, let me introduce you, he said as he turned around. Brother Ju had noticed earlier that behind flashes of sword, there was a thin young man who still looked like a child following behind him. He was dressed in a chivalrous outfit, and he had the badge of Jianghu on his chest. This is the rising star that we've brought in from Constellation, Child Jian introduced. Tienga, nice to meet you. Fong Bujue greeted casually. Wow, you're Fong Bujue? Tienga widened his eyes and stared at Brother Ju like he was looking at a monster. You look so much more real than in the video. Idiot. Child Jian flicked his finger at the young man's head. Isn't that obvious? How can you talk like that in front of others? Where's your manners? I'm sorry. Buchinga held his head and raised his head to look at Feng Bujue. Brother Feng, nice to meet you. Before he could finish his sentence, a dong sound was heard. Jian Shao had served sky, step 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 sky, step. Call me Brother Jew. Yes, Brother Jew. Buchinga very obediently changed the way he addressed Feng Bujue. You've brought out the rising star like a mafia henchman. Feng Bujue mocked expressionlessly. Speaking of which, the two of you are on top of each other. Aren't the system guards going to do something about it? It's fine. It's his sister who asked me to discipline him, Child Jian replied. Oh, I forgot to tell you. He is not a scaredy cat's little brother. Oh. Feng Bujue's expression shifted slightly, and he turned to Buchinga. Little Boo, it's not easy for you to live this long. Isn't that so? Buchinga replied with a weary expression. That's enough. Little Boo, why don't you go play somewhere else? I have something to discuss with Brother Feng, Child Jian said, trying to send Buchinga away. Oh, Sky Song replied. He shrugged his shoulders and turned to leave. After he walked away, Child Jian said, Brother Feng, let me tell you a secret. This kid is very talented, and he might become a very powerful player in the future. I know, Feng Bujue replied calmly. About 16 seconds ago, I remembered that he fought against Xiao Tan in the Battle of the Bug. Xiao mentioned that match to me. Yes, he mentioned it to me as well. Child Jian added. He said, he almost defeated that Wang Tongji in the finals of the tournament for the best. He shook his head. I criticized him on the spot. What do you mean by almost won? Doesn't that mean he didn't win? What is there to be proud of? I've noticed that you're getting more and more talkative. Feng Bujue basically ignored the other party's words and responded to Blade Runner with a condescending gaze. Indulging in the pleasure of having a girl perform combat skills all day long has caused abnormal hormone secretion. Haha, don't make fun of me. Didn't I just embarrass myself in front of you once? Child Jian replied with a dry laugh. That was because I went easy on her in front of outsiders. The lust and anticipation in your eyes have already betrayed you. Feng Bujue calmly added another stab. Hey, why you keep criticizing me like this? Is there a problem with the system's blocking function? Child Jian grumbled. I didn't say anything vulgar. Feng Bujue said. The only word that could be a sensitive word is lust. Since it wasn't blocked, it means that the system agrees with my point of view. In terms of verbal skills, Child Jian was naturally no match for Brother Jew. He soon became angry. TSK. Forget it. What's wrong with that? I'm just too happy. Ha ha ha. He spread his legs, put his hands on his hips, and laughed loudly 3 times. Feng Bujue was silent for 2 seconds. Fine. He sighed. There's something I want to tell you. What is it? Child Jian asked. When you said I criticized him on the spot, you're not a scaredy cat walked into the hall. When Feng Bujue said this, his gaze moved to the back of Child Jian. When you said, what is there to be proud of? She walked over to you with small steps. He paused. Then, she stood behind you and listened to our conversation. Now, her eyes don't look too good. When Flashes of Sword heard this, he swallowed with difficulty. His face was blanched, and he slowly turned his stiff neck to look behind him. A few seconds later, a smiling face appeared in young Master Jin's line of sight. This was an expression that not a scaredy cat rarely showed. The curl of her lips could not hide the murderous intent in her eyes. Buchinga looked at Child Jian with pity. I wanted to remind you, but Big Sister wouldn't let me. Blade Runner's lips twitched, and he turned to look at Feng Bujue. Why? This is a rare opportunity, so I'll give it to you. Feng Bujue opened his arms and smiled wickedly. Huangfu Mingkong, not a scaredy cat, said sternly. It's over. She called me by my full name. Child Jin's eyes were filled with despair. Interesting. Shouldn't you add? Do you dare answer if I call you by your full name? Feng Bujue laughed with schadenfreude. Come to my meeting room. I need to talk to you. Not a scaredy cat did not waste time. She grabbed Child Jian by the collar and dragged him out. Ah, the mountain is high and the river is long. The road ahead is endless. Goodbye, my friend. Goodbye. Goodbye. Feng Bujue waved his hands and sang as he watched Child Jian's back disappear into the distance. What song is that? Butinga stood where he was and asked Brother Ju. There's a movie in the former Yugoslavia called The Bridge. You should go and watch it when you have the time. Feng Bujue turned around with a smile. Oh, also, let me give you a kind reminder. The first step to becoming a strong person is to stop letting others hit you on the head. With that, he slowly walked away, leaving behind only his shadow, hiding his achievements and fame. Butinga looked at Brother Ju with admiration and said, even though I don't know what happened, he seems to be very powerful. 15 minutes later, Brother Ju returned to the login lobby. He had studied the rules at the puzzle card trading center and had become an expert. It did not take long for him to exchange all 7 of his cards. The 7 cards he had brought back were puzzle card, sheep asterisk 2, puzzle card, bull, puzzle card, scorpion, puzzle card, crab, puzzle card, fish, and puzzle card. Lion. Obviously, Feng Bujue wanted to form a deck that was the 12 zodiac signs. Now that he had a basic idea, he had a targeted and purposeful change in cards. After all, it was done through the counter at the trading center, so there was no need to bargain. He only needed to use the search function to search for a card that matched the characteristics of the 12 zodiac signs, and the condition was 1 for 1, no restrictions on the type. Then, he could confirm the operation. There were 2 types of players who listed their cards at the trading center. The first type was those who were too lazy to spend time and effort to choose, so they just casually listed their cards at the trading center. They would come back a few days later to see if the cards that they had exchanged could be put together into a combination. The second type was those who already had a combination plan, but did not find the type of card that they wanted to exchange for, so they took some useless cards and listed them there with a condition, hoping to exchange for a specific card. Feng Bujue was the type of person who only had 7 cards in his hand, but already wanted to form a 12 zodiac card combination. However, Brother Ju also understood that with his current number of puzzle cards, it was still too early for him to complete the 12 zodiac sign set. Because, according to the market, if you wanted to exchange for a set of 5 cards, you would have to prepare at least 7 cards. If you wanted a 10 zodiac card combination, it would be best to prepare around 15 cards. This was a very simple logic. Who would not want to form a multi-card combination? However, the further one went, the more difficult it would be. For example, this 12 zodiac signs set, when you only had 1 or 2 cards left, there would not be any left in the trading center. What could you do? The only way was to hang your card and wait for someone to take the initiative to exchange with you. However, if you chose to exchange for a specific card, the other party might not be willing to exchange 1 for 1. Therefore, people who wanted to exchange for a specific card would usually hang 2 cards that they did not want, and exchange 2 cards for 1. There was a reason behind this. Maybe something that was useless to you was something that another person could only wish for. All in all, there were many ways to do things at the puzzle card trading center. If one had the patience to hang there all day and play well enough, in theory, one could exchange more puzzle cards. After becoming a card tycoon, one could do some offline trading and make a profit. This was because there was a type of player called the nouveau riche in this world. As long as one had money, forget about a 12 zodiac card combination. What was the harm in gathering the 108 generals of water margin? They just needed to put up a quest on the trading center, and based on the price of each card, it was only a matter of time before they collected all the cards. The space in my storage is starting to run out. When Feng Bujue was saving the cards, he looked at his box that only had 10 storage slots. Jazz Shoes will eventually be destroyed, but Pokerman's Hero ID card will probably take up 1 slot. I don't have much space left in my inventory. It's not appropriate for me to carry a bunch of puzzle cards in my pocket. Lin Sanji shook her head and said. With that in mind, Brother Ju made up his mind. He summoned the storage box's operation window and bought 5 storage slots through the shortcut. Similar to the price of the inventory slot, the storage slot's price was 1 million game coins per 5 slots. This money was going to be spent sooner or later, so he might as well make use of this opportunity. What if he was rewarded with more puzzle cards the next time he exited the scenario? That would be awkward. Okay. Fong Bujua looked at the game coins that disappeared from the menu and turned to walk toward the elevator. It's time to earn some money. Chapter 597. Since the end of the tournament for the best, the Underworld frontline members, with the exception of Yuechin, had all leveled up significantly. Ruo Yu, Xiao Tan, and Xiao Ling had all reached level 40. Compared to Fong Bujue's level 43, the difference wasn't that big. Therefore, during the day, Fong Bujue had already made an appointment with his friends to meet at 1 a.m. on the 13th in the sleeping mode channel and farm dungeons together. However, at this time, Brother Ju wasn't the only one online. When Fong Bujue logged in, he noticed that Xiao Tan and Xiao Ling were also online. However, both of them were in the game, while Ruo Yu and Miss were offline. Therefore, he still had to farm dungeons by himself. Some people might be confused. Brother Ju had a lot of friends, and most of them were professional players. Why didn't Brother Ju join them? The reason was simple. Because they were professional players, their online time was usually very full, and they were busy almost all the time. Furthermore, they had their own team and dungeon plans. Fong Bujue wasn't going to join them, so there was no need for him to add to their troubles. Of course, if someone came to him, it would be a different story. I haven't farmed in a killing game for a long time. Fong Bujue thought for a while in front of the screen. It's 7:20 a.m. If I go for a 1v1, it'll take at least 15 minutes and at most 1 or 2 hours. It won't be past my bedtime. As he thought about it, he clicked on the game mode. Before Brother Ju officially entered the queue, let's take a look at his latest status. Title: Hate Gatherer. Title ability: Furnace of Hatred EXP 22894140430000. Skill points: 8614. Game coins: 843300. Mastery: General ability A, Workmanship C, Sleuthing D, Fighting A, Marksmanship C, Medic D, Sorcery C, Summoning C. Inventory: 1315 SCP 500 320. Compound Anti-Gravity Catapult, Miss Moxie's Bad Temper, Bell of Jean Gang, Life Points Recovery Potion, M. X5, Endless Grenade Magazine, WJQ. 308 Military Shovel, Indestructible Type, Damn It Can Hold Down Mushroom, X1. Deceitful Pocket Watch, Magical Soul Pivot, Invulnerable Blade, Chuck Norris Razor, Oxygen Pipe. Equipment: Death Poker, Sorcery Weapon, Echo Armor, Artemis's Embrace, Transplanted Alchemy Amplification Device, Void Tread, Phantom Madam's Caress. Storage Room: August 15 Jazz Dance, Puzzle Card, Sheep Asters 2, Puzzle Card, Bull, Puzzle Card, Scorpion, Puzzle Card, Crab, Puzzle Card, Fish, Puzzle Card, Lion, Pokerman Hero ID Card. Skills Column: 1/12, Not So Hasty Repair, Spiritual Body Enhancement Technique. Modified: Alchemist Persistence, Southern Dipper Flying Dragon Fist, Summoning Technique, Musashi Kogani, Jeppo, Renkyaku, Sandstorm Transition, Tribeam, Summon Technique, Sun, Wild Ball Fist, Devilish Child's Kick, Unequipped Skill, Devil King's Inferno. Even though it had been almost 100 chapters, Brother Ju's attributes had not changed that much. The main reason was that his level had reached a high enough level that all his abilities had stabilized. For example, Marksmanship and Medic. Unless Brother Ju obtained a suitable skill in the future, he would not be able to train them even if he wanted to. Relying on normal marksmanship and drinking health potions, it would be hard for his mastery to change. However, that did not mean that he did not have much room for improvement in the future. In Thriller Paradise, after every 10 levels, a new beginning would be ushered in. If one thought that maxing out would be the end of the journey, one would be greatly mistaken. Currently, no one knew that after reaching the maximum level, there would be a wider world waiting for the players. Fong Bujue, level 43. Please select the game mode that you wish to join. You have selected Killing Game 1v1. Please confirm. Confirmed. Generating scenario. Downloading. Please wait a moment. Once the announcement was made, Brother Jew lost control of his body. White light flashed before his eyes, and then it was replaced by darkness. This time, the loading time was longer. Just as Phone Bujue was getting suspicious, an additional system announcement appeared. Special reminder. In a new update, the Terror Points rating mechanism has been removed from the 1v1 mode of Killing Game. This setting is still retained in the other multiplayer modes of Killing Game. The above announcement will only appear once. You can check the official website for more information. Good luck in the game. Phone Bujue was not surprised by the appearance of these few sentences because he already knew about them. These details were not shown on the introduction page of the V1.10 patch. One had to go to the details page to read them, and Brother Jew was the kind of person who would click on them and read them one by one. Make your opponents tremble in fear. Let them experience true terror. A soft female voice announced the opening of this scenario. Loading complete. You're currently playing the Killing Game. A scenario introduction is provided in this mode, and there's a chance of triggering hidden side missions and special world building. Reward for winning the scenario. 3,000 game coins. This kind of reward. Phone Bujue looked at the window before him and thought, I thought at least there would be a puzzle card, but this is all there is to it. However, Brother Jew had mentally prepared himself for this situation. He had expected this to weaken the reward for winning the 1v1 mode. This story started at the beginning of May. At the time, many players complained on the forum, saying that the 1v1 mode was getting harder and harder. The reason behind this was, at the end of April, someone wrote a technical post on the forum with the title 1v1 is the best way to level up. Since then, many brainless 1v1 players had appeared in the game. Most of them were not experts. They merely copied the strategies written by others, leveling up their mastery in workmanship and marksmanship slightly. Then, they gathered a set of equipment and skills specifically for 1v1 duels and bought many special consumables. After equipping themselves fully, they just needed to focus on that mode. Naturally, there were fewer variables in a 1v1. When the difference in skill between the players was not that big, using this strategy could indeed increase the chance of winning greatly. Therefore, during this period, the 1v1 Killing Game queue in Thriller Paradise became a paradise for brainless players. This made the gaming experience of the casual players very bad, because whenever they queued up for a 1v1, there was a high chance that they would run into such an opponent. Normal players were often beaten to the point of tears under the bombardment of special bullets and targeted skills. To win against these brainless players, they had to rack their brains and not allow for the slightest mistake. Sometimes they even needed a bit of luck. But when it came to fighting them, it was so easy. Even if they lost, they could just queue for the next match. Many people were depressed from being beaten up and simply stopped queuing for 1v1. The remaining normal players had to make a choice between continuing to be beaten up or joining in with the evil. Over time, more and more people started to engage in brainless 1v1 tactics. Logically speaking, a large-scale virtual reality MMORPG should have a good 1v1 PK experience. But it was made to feel like you were climbing the ladder in a game for rich players. Since May was the month of the tournament for the best, the various complaints about this phenomenon were drowned in the tide of other topics. But that did not mean that the Dream Company did not hear them. Once the new update was released, the reward for the 1v1 mode had been removed in one fell swoop. Even the terror points were removed, and the victory reward was reduced to a pitiful state. You want to continue this brainless game? Sure. Even if you win using this method, the reward is not even enough to buy the supplements for the next match. On the other hand, the person who lost might be able to get more skill points than you. With this new rule, in just 2 days, the 1v1 environment improved a lot. Most of the people who were still playing this mode were here to hone their skills and gain skill points. Situations where two people would go easy on each other had already been completely eliminated. Both parties could obtain a relatively reasonable reward for the battle. There was no doubt that there was praise for this change on the forum. Of course, there were also criticisms. Most of the criticisms came from the group of people who relied on the brainless method to get to level 30. After losing the method of 1v1, they soon realized that their gaming skills were horrible. Other than workmanship and marksmanship, which had reached C, they had no other mastery level. When they entered a team scenario, they became a burden and were looked down upon by others. But there was nothing they could do about it. Based on Woody's original words, the brainless phenomenon is easy to solve. From the perspective of motivation and cost, some simple adjustments can eliminate it. But those who are short-sighted and do not know how to reflect are hard to deal with. This is no longer the era where I can slice people up and flush them down the toilet. The scenario introduction is about to be played. The game will start immediately after. After reading the hint, the plot introduction slowly appeared. A powerful male voice rang out, and it was reciting along with the subtitles. Night, cold night, cold night. People, two silent people. Under the moonlight, before the flowers, beautiful scenery. However, this place is a scene of death. At this point, Feng Bujue's eyes lit up. He instantly realized that he was standing on the roof of a rather large ancient building. To be more precise, he was standing on the roof. His eyes seemed to be able to see through everything in this world. Her sword seems to be able to cut through everything in this world. Under the moonlight, only these two people remain. In this world, only these two people remain. Chapter 598. Important hint. Your inventory has been locked. Your sorcery weapon has been locked. Before the scenario ends, the only weapon that you can use is the sword that you are holding. All active skills other than fighting skills cannot be used. What? After hearing the strange introduction, Feng Bujue was greeted with yet another setting that was incredibly annoying. And the setting was not over yet. Important hint 2. In this scenario, a special value will be introduced. This value is currently displayed in your game menu. The change to this value will affect your performance in battle. As he finished, Feng Bujue opened the game menu and quickly found the so-called special value under the 3 slots of life, body, and spirit. It's a fashion value. When Brother Ju saw the term fashion value, plus 10, he was completely shocked. There were too many problems with this setting. It was as bad as the main character's plot armor main quest triggered. Kill all the members of the enemy team. After the introduction and hint ended, the new quest appeared. And at that moment, it announced the start of the battle. Hey. If I can only use fighting skills and cold weapons, this is quite disadvantageous for me. Feng Bujue mumbled to himself. The person opposite me is a professional in this field, to be recognized as a professional by Feng Bujue. Naturally, she would be quite capable. At that moment, the person standing on the roof was such a person. She was tall and slender, and her face was otherworldly. Her fair skin, under the moonlight, had a breathtaking beauty. Her white dress was decorated with a pattern of blood cherry blossoms. A light breeze blew past, and her dress fluttered in the wind. Her figure was like a fairy. In this battle, Su Huaishang used her 2 swords that she was used to, and Feng Bujue used a sword that he had just obtained. The familiarity of the two with their weapons was like heaven and earth. Just this point alone had closed the gap between them in terms of raw power. In other words, the difference in power that Brother Ju had created through mastery, level, and equipment disappeared the moment he entered the scenario. TSK. No matter how you look at it, it's not fair to me, Feng Bujue said again. As expected of a goddess, even the system takes special care of you, Feng Bujue. At this moment, Su Huaishang suddenly spoke. Her tone was cold and calm. I have been looking forward to a rematch with you, but I did not expect this battle to come so soon. After Brother Ju heard this, he didn't say anything for a long time. After about 10 seconds, he replied, Do we have to fight? Su Huaishang chuckled. Why not? This isn't a competition, and no one is watching. Don't tell me you're afraid of losing. Obviously, Goddess Su had misunderstood the meaning behind Brother Ju's words, and that was why she responded with such a serious tone. Sigh. Brother Ju sighed deeply. Then he slowly turned his body and placed the sheathed sword between his chest and his arm. He crossed his arms over his chest and struck a pose that was purposely chic. Wreckage flies in the sky. Duan Hua cries in the flowers. At the end of the year, if things don't go back, who will the moon mourn for? He did not want to do anything. He started to recite a poem and then turned his head to look at his opponent from the corner of his eyes. Su Huai Shang. As the saying goes, the falling flower is willing, but the heartless brook is heartless. Goddess Su's face blushed instantly. Her heart was filled with shock, suspicion, anger, and even amusement. What's wrong with you? Why are you acting cool over there? Why do you make it sound like I'm going to throw myself at you? Before she even finished, Su Huaishang had already figured out what was going on. She immediately added, "Oh, I know." Even though she was a few seconds late, she still understood Brother Ju's intention. "You're trying to be fashionable, aren't you?" Unexpectedly, after Su Huaishang uttered those 3 words, her own fashionable value dropped by 20 points and became -10. Oh no. Seeing this, her expression changed slightly. She thought to herself, that ridiculous number has become negative. Looks like I can't say those things properly. With that in mind, she raised her eyes to look at Brother Ju. But if I have to do those stupid things like him to get my points, that's just too embarrassing. That's right, very embarrassing. But Feng Buju didn't care. This was the fairness of the system. Since they were fighting openly, Su Huaishang had already gained a clear advantage. Then the system would definitely give Feng Bujue a way to turn the tables. And right now, the embodiment of this method was fashionable value. The wind today is very noisy. Faced with Su Huaishang's interrogation, Feng Bujue continued to find topics to talk about. He raised his head to look at the moon and said something that was full of sarcasm. Of course, Su Huaishang couldn't complain because if she did, she would lose humph. Her face was red. Is it because the wind is crying? Feng Bujue's eyes narrowed as he looked at Su Huaishang. He thought to himself, "You've connected. I thought someone like you wouldn't be able to get the point, but you've actually connected." At the same time, Su Huaishang thought to herself, No. This is super embarrassing. I thought I'd be fine after I said it out loud, but the truth is still hard to accept. Neither of them knew what the other was thinking because on the surface, their faces were still calm and emotionless. "I can fight you." Feng Bujue paused for 2 seconds before speaking again. "But can you really take my sword?" "Why not?" Su Huaishang replied. "Because your heart hasn't calmed down yet." After Feng Bujue said this, he thought to himself, "What the F***CK? What kind of reason is this?" "How do you know?" Su Huaishang asked coldly. "I just know." Brother Bujue also said coldly. Then the 2 of them complained in their hearts, "You 2 are crazy. Perhaps it's a good thing that your heart hasn't calmed down yet." Su Huaishang wanted to change the topic so that they could start the fight quickly. "Because your sword hasn't calmed down either." "My sword," Feng Bujue said as he raised the sword with one hand. However, he had no intention of unsheathing it. "It is indeed restless." He paused, "But my heart has died a long time ago." "Go to hell. You really can go to hell. You're too shameless. If I keep this up, I won't be able to look at myself anymore." Su Huaishang cursed in her heart. Even though she was angry, she couldn't do anything about it. She could only pretend. "Is that so? What did you die?" Feng Bujue scoffed and brushed his bangs aside. "Humph. Of course, it was from the moment I learned that skill." Chapter 599. Su Huaishang had no idea what the trick that Feng Bujue was talking about was, but she could basically guess that the man was just making things up. "Humph. Is that so?" Su Huaishang scoffed. Then, her hands fell on the blades around her waist. "Why don't you show me what you're capable of?" Her mind was clear. In terms of ting, she was definitely no match for Feng Bujue. If this continued, the gap between their fashion sense would only grow bigger and bigger. Therefore, Su Huaishang's plan was to end this embarrassing conversation as soon as possible and start the fight as soon as possible. If it really could not be ended, then she would have to fight it out. Quite clever. On the other side, Feng Bujue also thought to himself, she knows that she is no match for me in terms of fashion sense, so she wants to start the fight when the gap between us is not that big. Feng Bujue's mind raced, and he soon came up with a solution. He slowly turned around and stood there proudly. Then he straightened his right arm and raised the sword before him. Very well, he roared powerfully. In the entire martial world, only you, Su Huaishang, would dare to say something like that. You've only been in this Jianghu for a few minutes, haven't you? I've only just entered this scenario. Su Huaishang could only say those words silently in her heart. And when she did, she had to maintain the cold and serious expression on her face, of course. Feng Bujue was not done yet. In these few seconds, he had already constructed a complete story about Su Huaishang in his heart. It included her background, family, sect, learning experience, love story, and all kinds of strange things that happen in the martial world. If there was no accident, Brother Ju planned to tell this story for at least half an hour. But an accident happened. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Suddenly, a burst of laughter came from the night sky. With the laughter, both Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang were slightly startled. They both thought that this scenario would be a simple encounter, but they did not expect there would be someone else there. Huh! After a clear shout, a figure jumped onto the roof. It was a man, a middle-aged man. He was dressed in an ash-colored robe and had a curly beard on his face. His appearance was very rough. He held a saber tightly in his hand, indicating his identity. He was a saber wielder. After the man stood still, he said to his brother Ju, "Your words are a little too full of yourselves." "Who are you?" Feng Bujue was overjoyed at the unexpected turn of events and hurriedly responded. What an arrogant brat. You don't even know me, Liao Wu, the 100-catty saber of the northern frontier, and you dare to talk nonsense about looking at the entire martial world? Huh. In order to maintain his arrogant image, Feng Bujue cast a disdainful look at the burly man. Is this strange? There are as many nameless people in the martial arts world as there are hairs on a cow. What Tom, Dick, Harry, fourth brother, fifth brother? Do I have to recognize all of them? Liao Wu was instantly infuriated, and his eyes widened as he said, "What a young man! You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, yet you dare to insult others." As he spoke, he held the sheath in his left hand and the hilt of his saber in his right. "Let me teach you a lesson on behalf of your master. Wait." Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out, stopping Liao Wu's actions. As soon as the voice came out, so did the person. A graceful figure landed on the eaves. The woman's figure came to a stop, revealing a pretty face. She was about 25 or 26 years old. Her clothes were whiter than snow, and she held a long sword in her hand. She should be a female swordsman. "Master Liao, please don't be angry." The woman said to Liao Wu, "Why fight over a junior's arrogant words?" After Liao Wu saw the woman, he was silent for 2 seconds. "Oh, so it's White Plum Sword, Heroine Miao. You flatter me. Greetings, Master Liao." Although Miao Ying was much younger than Liao Wu, she did not address him as a senior. According to seniority, she and Liao Wu should be of the same generation. Liao Wu scoffed and turned to look at Feng Bujue. Kid, since Heroine Miao has pleaded on your behalf, I'll let you go this time." That's unnecessary." Brother Ju did not appreciate the kindness. It would be better if he started a fight with these two. "Both of you." Su Huaishang quickly spoke before the two NPCs could get angry. "Today She hesitated as she thought about how to address Brother Ju. "Brother Feng and I are having a duel here. This is a personal matter. Can you two please stay out of it?" So, it was really you who left the message? At this moment, a third voice rang out. Su Huaishang felt a headache coming on. She thought to herself, why are these guys appearing one after another? Are we still going to fight or not? The sound of clothes fluttering in the wind was often accompanied by the sound of flying. This person was no exception. This person was dressed in black with a red cape. His hair was tied up neatly, and his face was as clear as jade. He did not seem to be carrying any weapons. At least, he did not seem to be carrying any. Tang Yin, why are you here? Liao Wu asked immediately. Huh, why? If you can come, why can't I? Tang Yin replied. Those who have heard of that news must be curious. What news? Su Huaishang asked. Of course it's. Tang Yin stopped mid-sentence because when he turned around and saw Su Huaishang, his mind went blank. He had seen his fair share of beautiful women in his life. However, this was the first time he had seen such a beautiful female warrior. In Tang Yun's memory, only his own mother, the fairy of the clouds Mu Rongyin, had such beauty. What is it? Su Huaishang asked again. Air. It's. Tang Yun had already forgotten the content of the previous question. Ha ha ha. Liao Wu guffawed again. You stinking brat. You can't even remember your own name when you see a beautiful lady. Tang Yun's face turned red. Being laughed at in front of a beautiful lady, of course he would be angry. Pfft. Liao Wu, don't talk nonsense. Otherwise I will. What? You want to teach me a lesson too? Liao Wu's hand was on the sword again. Hey, my bad temper. At that moment, Feng Bujue was laughing to himself, while Su Huaishang was shaking her head. It looked like before they even started fighting, these NPCs that came out of nowhere were going to start fighting. A month ago, suddenly, a fourth voice rang out. Someone used his amazing skills to control his sword and carved 16 words on top of a huge pillar in the imperial city. This voice was sharp, but Feng Bujue felt a sense of déjà vu. In the blink of an eye, another figure appeared. This person, without a doubt, was the most powerful of the NPCs that had appeared so far. He was the fastest and the quietest. When he spoke, his voice and breath were the calmest. Almost as soon as this person appeared, Liao Wu, Miao Ying, and Tang Yun's faces were filled with shock and fear. They were all top-notch fighters in the martial arts world. They were not ordinary people. But in just one encounter, the three of them realized that this person's kung fu was unfathomable. In fact, it was unbelievable. On the night of the full moon, on top of the Forbidden City, a sword from the west, a celestial from beyond the heavens. The voice continued, At the time, I was still wondering who would have such courage and such kung fu to issue a challenge to someone in the royal city. He walked slowly towards Brother Ju. But in the end, it was you. The man took a few steps forward and the moonlight illuminated his face. When Feng Bujue saw his face, he smiled and saluted. Feng Bujue greets eunuch Chao. Oh God! Su Huaishang chanted God's name in her heart. What kind of development is this? Ha! It's been 30 years, Master Feng. Chao Xian looked up and down at Feng Bujue. How have you been? As soon as he said that, Feng Bujue understood. It had been 30 years since he last entered this universe. But there was a problem. Chao Xian did not look much older. He looked no older than 50. I'm fine. Feng Bujue smiled. Eunuch Chao, you look good as well. You're getting younger with age. Humph. Chao Yin snorted coldly with his androgynous voice. I was born a genius with an outstanding constitution. Moreover, 15 years ago, I achieved great success in the divine art and entered the celestial realm. For her to have such an appearance is not surprising. As he said that, he glared at Brother Bujue. But you, Master Feng, you surprised me. Could it be that you are one of those immortal gods? Ha! Feng Bujue laughed heartily. He bought himself a few seconds to come up with a lie. I'm not very likable. The King of Hell doesn't want to accept me. He replied jokingly. Chao Xian was a smart man. He did not pursue the matter. He stroked a ribbon on the brim of his hat in a charming manner and replied, Forget it if you don't want to tell me. I'm not interested anyway. With that, he turned around and glanced at the people around him. The three masters who were so confident a moment ago shivered when they saw Chao Xian's gaze. Only Su Huaishang remained as calm as still water, unmoved. Master Feng, if you want to find someone to fight, that's fine. Chao Xian continued. If you want to fight in the royal palace. He sighed. To be honest, that's fine. He pointed into the distance. But why did you leave a message a month in advance? He paused and said, do you know how much trouble this has brought to the imperial court? It's my fault for not thinking things through. Feng Bujue admitted his mistake. He did not want to make an enemy out of Chao Xian. If there was a survival guide in the wuxiao world, there would be a chapter titled Don't Mess with Eunuch Chao. Sigh. Fine. Chao Xian shook his head. Fortunately, I was prepared, so the news did not spread in the martial arts world. There are less than 100 people who know about this. There are more than 30 people who came to the royal palace tonight. However, only 3 of them managed to sneak in. As Chao Xian spoke, he placed his hands behind his back and looked at the 3 people. The 3 of you are quite capable. His gaze was like a sharp knife, drawing a cold gleam in the night sky. I know that if I send a normal master from the imperial court, they might not be able to take you down. So, half an hour ago, I ordered all the imperial guard around here to evacuate. I am prepared to come here personally and start a massacre. At this point, the 3 of them felt their blood run cold. Chao Xian continued, but I am very happy to see an old friend today. He smiled. And this duel, I want to watch it. Liao Wu, Miao Ying, and Tang Yun, emotions were on a roller coaster ride. For a brief moment, they thought that they were going to die. But now, it seemed like there was still a chance. How about this? Chao Xian said as he walked over the roof and stood beside the 3 people. When they're done, I will send you out. But the condition is you will never tell anyone about what happened today, or else. Before he could say something like, I will wipe out your entire family, the quick-witted Miao Ying had already said, thank you for not killing us, senior. Tang Yun also saw the wind and quickly cupped her hands. Thank you, senior. Liao was also terrified now. He stammered, Thank you, eunuch. Chao Xian nodded in satisfaction. Actually, he was not a homicidal maniac. What he needed was the feeling of being respected. To be honest, when one reached Chao Xian's level, there were not many things he wanted. He had peerless martial arts, money, and power. He could not afford women, but he had taken in many God's son. The only things that could make him happy now were his vanity and pride. The main reason why Chao Xian had a good impression of Feng Bujue was that he did not see any discrimination in Master Feng's eyes. This kind of respect was much stronger than the respect due to fear that he was used to. You children of the martial world only know how to enjoy the show, but you don't know that there will always be someone better than you. Chao Xian continued. 30 years ago, during the Chonglin tournament, Lin Chang's shapeless and formless dharma was unparalleled. Even Yi Cheng and Xia San were defeated by him. The so-called one family, 2 pavilions, 3 factions, and 4 clans were nothing compared to him. He paused for 2 seconds. At the time, if not for this Master Feng, the martial world would not exist today. With a lecturing tone, he said to the 3 experts who were already dumbfounded, and now, your generation is even more reckless. Humph! You only know some basic kung fu, and you dare to barge into the royal palace. He laughed coldly and raised his head to look at Brother Zhu and Su Huaishang. Take a closer look. Was a real expert. The wind was still blowing. The night was not over, but the blade was still in its sheath. Under the burning gaze of the 4 audience members, Feng Bujue's fashion value rose again, and it became a positive 50. And thanks to Brother Zhu, Su Huaishang's fashion value rose to 18. So that's why he has been to this scenario before. Su Huaishang arranged what she had heard in her heart, and he's acquainted with that eunuch Chao. She thought about it. Thankfully, the background of this killing game is a duel, so the NPC probably won't help him directly. At the same time, Brother Zhu was thinking, so that's why. It's this world. This universe does not have Yi Gu Cheng or Shi Men Shui Xue, so the setting has been applied to us. His eyes moved slightly to look at the sword in his hand. The skill that I mentioned just now fits the description of Flying Fairy, but how would I know how to use it? Quick, make your move. Feng Bujue. Su Huaishang yelled as she unsheathed her blades. Now that there was an audience around them, it was much more efficient to gain the fashion value. If this continued, it would not be good for her. Before I make my move, I have one more thing to say. Feng Bujue said coldly. TSK. Damn it. Su Huaishang grumbled internally. But she still had to put on a cold expression and said, Speak. What should I say? Feng Bujue wanted to drag this out and gain some fashion value. So at that moment, he was thinking, how about I say I love you to disturb her emotions? She won't report me for sexual harassment, right? His mind was filled with ideas like that. Wait a minute. As a popular idol, Su Huaishang has heard at least 800 if not 1,000 love confessions. This one is not that damaging. He then thought, unfortunately, I am not a girl, or else I could say I am pregnant with your child, or something like that. Sigh. Or I could just say that I took a dump on my pants. But when the words reached his lips, they were swallowed back by Brother Jew. He thought to himself, that won't do. Even if I can disturb her emotions, my own fashion value will plummet because of that. That is too lame. What are you trying to say? Su Huaishang urged. Are you trying to buy time? She then asked, and took 2 steps forward. Feng Bujue had no other choice but to say, if I lose in the end, please bury me together with my wife. When he said that, there was a hint of sadness in his voice, and he showed his true colors as the best actor in the industry. Who is it? Who is your wife? Who knows your wife? Su Huaishang was about to explode. Okay, she agreed to the man's strange request with a complicated expression. Due to anger and depression, her shoulders were shaking. But from the perspective of others, Su Huaishang's reaction gave them a different feeling. Tang Yin'er sighed sadly. Sigh. It is true that the falling flower is in love with the heartless brook. Su Huaishang was shocked. She screamed internally, What? When the hell did you get here? What did you hear? Oh, Chao Xin seemed to have noticed something was wrong. He turned around and asked the people around him, These two, are they in that kind of relationship? Sigh. I pity this lady. She is sincere, but that Master Feng is still thinking about his dead wife. Miaoing nodded. Su Huaishang screamed internally. She wanted to die. The expression on her face was twisted. Heroine Miao, you must have read too many romance novels. The degree of completion of his imagination was too high. How did this kind of unmarried atmosphere come about? Even the burly Liao Wu chimed in. I didn't expect Master Feng to be such a devoted man. He is not moved by beauty at all. I can't help but admire him. Admire my ass. Is there any justice in this world? Su Huaishang bit down on her lips angrily. But this expression caused the people around her to misunderstand. If that's the case, then take this. Feng Bujue didn't expect his words to have such a miraculous effect. He had completely disrupted Su Huaishang's emotions. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Brother Jew got into position and attacked. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.